How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another episode of No Excuses on VTWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, Still,
Fenurian,
and Bullisel, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week, such as it is. Hasn't been a very busy week, but we'll do our best.
Yeah, Dad of War happened.
If you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us an email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw. Or you can join us in our Discord channel, which is most easily accessed by going to vtwproductions.com and clicking on our logo on any of our recent show posts, which will take you right to our Discord, where you can basically, spam the chat with whatever silly bullcrap you find online, or you can converse with the show hosts and other listeners of the show, and so on and so forth.
Yes, indeed. Oh boy, so I'm probably tempting fate a bit this week and playing some Slime Rancher on the stream. Last time I did this, my computer just completely died, so yeah.
Tempting fate.
Definitely tempting fate. So on that note, I've received some of the parts to do the upgrade. I've got the motherboard and the processor. Still don't have the RAM because Newegg does some very strange things.
Yeah, they're not quite the perfect website to ship all the parts for everything they used to be. They've fallen down quite a bit as of late. I've had stuff arriving late, which never used to happen with them. I've had parts prices being listed wrong. It's just a mess.
Yeah, thankfully I haven't run into that, unless you count the idiotic way Americans handle attacks. But, yeah, for some reason they're selling...
Exclude it from everything?
Yeah, exclude it from everything and only add it on at the end.
Yeah, it's really, really dumb. It would be illegal in New Zealand to do things the way they...
Oh my, yes. Same here. But it's the norm over there for reasons. So...
Well, it's basically the easiest scam possible.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this the other day, if I recall, Ari. That's the whole reason it still exists, is because it's basically being used to scam extra money out of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can put something up for $29.99 and let tax bump it over. And people will buy it because the 20 and they see the 2 in the tens digit slot and think, oh, $20. Even though if they know consciously it's $30, this kind of psychological trick works on everybody, even people that are aware of it. They're just like, oh, that's not $30, that's $20. Your brain just sees the 2.
Yeah. So, yeah, anyway. But, anyway, so this motherboard processor RAM combo I bought, which is a Ryzen 5 1600 AMD processor, an AB350 ASRock motherboard, and, some RAM. For some reason, they were selling them as a bundle, but they weren't shipping them as a bundle. The RAM itself was actually coming from a different distribution center. Thankfully, at least...
Well, that's pretty normal.
It's still dumb. But thankfully,
That's the reason why you were able to afford it.
Yeah. I got to put up with some dumb for that, I suppose. But, yeah. Other bundles I've looked at on Newegg... The distribution centers weren't even in the same country, so that's something. So yeah, hopefully that RAM will come on Monday, and I can take great joy in retiring these broken and never really worked properly bits. And I just did a really dumb in this game. Don't do what I just did. That's dumb.
It's a game about farming poo. What could you have possibly done that was so critical?
Jumped in the ocean.
Oh.
Yeah, that was dumb. So, as far as games and other stuff I did this week, let's see. Kept on chipping away at the anime. I'm finding myself really unmotivated to watch the Persona 5 anime because it's not
an inferior version of the game.
Well, yeah. It doesn't... There's not really a whole lot of point to it because the game is superior in every possible way.
It doesn't really have the swag that Charlie does.
No, instead of being, the stoic and swag lord who nonetheless still has a lot of personality, he's just kind of, the stoic generic anime protag type dealy.
That the game had so much polish put into its presentation and how everything looked while you're playing, and game feel in general, everything down to the menus.
And not just that, but the characterization as well. Like, everyone had a point, everyone had their own unique personalities and quirks and things like that. They were relatable as people.
Yeah, that may or may not still be there in the anime, but everything relating to the gameplay and that polish is gone.
It is. It's completely gone.
We have already consumed this product with those things as a highlight. And with them gone, this is immediately going to seem like an inferior product.
Yeah. Well, they're doing a sort of once per episode thing with the all-out attacks whenever they're in the metaverse. Now, these in the games always looked great. They had the over-the-top animation, the very slick visual style, the cartoony sound effects, and of course the great ending poses. But they've tried to keep it for the anime, but they've just half-assed it.
Yeah, I'm not really sure even precisely what it is about them that makes them look wrong.
They just look wrong.
Look sloppy.
Yeah.
I think it's that those all-out attacks were made to be done with 3D models in a kind of cel-shaded space, not in 2D animation, and trying to replicate them or do adjustments like that.
This is the core problem. The core problem is that anime is not a realistic medium. It's not meant to be a realistic medium. But the gap between what you can accomplish with animation and what is accomplished by video game animation has disappeared. Like, that gap is no longer a gap. So it's sort of hard to really... It's hard to offer anything in the animation medium that can't be offered by the video game. Like, it's basically redundant.
Yeah. Honestly, a lot of the sequences and things like that would have actually looked a lot better if they just used the in-game assets and just ripped them off. Ugh. But aside from that, yeah, the characters all come across as shallow because they're rushing through everything. And yeah, okay, we haven't seen... Well, actually, I think the episode is up now for the Kamoshida boss battle, which is the first really big thing. But they've really half-assed the plot, and if you just watch the anime, you wouldn't really have any idea exactly what's going on and why they're fighting.
It really doesn't it doesn't carry the same sort of weight that you get from, effectively you've got to sort of live the day-to-day school life, and it changes the frame of reference to for the events compared to you're just watching from episode to episode.
Yeah,
a different thing.
Yeah, like in the game, Shiho's suicide attempt, biggest plot element that really gets the game going. Lots of build up. It's done very well in the game. In the anime, it's a case of, oh look, there's Shiho. Oh look, she's just jumped off a building, and now she's gone.
Who was that again?
Yeah. Why do we care? So yeah, I can't recommend watching it. Maybe if you want just a quick recap of the story, but it's had its 3 episodes now, and nah.
Yeah, I might keep watching it, but I mean, it's not. I wouldn't rate it as especially good. Like, I don't know for sure because this world doesn't exist. But in a world where you're viewing it in a world where you're viewing it where the game doesn't exist, I don't think it holds up very well because it's just too rushed.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like that the anime medium offers anything special that it can't obtain elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, they're trying to compress a 100-hour, 150-hour game, depending on how you play it, down to
about
24? No, not even 24 hours. 12 hours.
About 40 of which is raw story. I mean, the rest is dungeon crawling and menu managing and min-maxing sonas.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, it's still 40 hours of narrative content you've got to deliver in, like, what? This thing's 24? So 6?
Yeah.
You're not doing it in 1/6 the time. It's even, like, Persona 4, they couldn't do it with the game only being about 70 hours.
No.
Persona 5 is at least 25% longer.
Yeah, they're going to have to cut out, well, pretty much everything, honestly. Everything except for the core story. So no social links, no fun little asides. It's just going to be the core story. And even then, it's rushed.
Yeah, it's just I think these anime adaptations completely lose sight of what makes Sona so popular and why people love it so much. And that's sitting there and immersing yourself in this world together by getting to know these fictional characters and getting involved in their daily lives. But if you can't do that, the biggest appeal of that particular spin-off of the S&T franchise just goes poof.
Yep. Oh dear. Not even sure why Ryuji's there at this point. He's just there.
Like,
Anyway, from something bland to something actually really good. My Hero Academia. The series is kicked up into full gear in episode 4. And I gotta say, that episode 4 of the new series is just excellent. Brilliant.
I haven't had time to watch it.
I've only seen up to episode 2.
It doesn't.
Seen episode 3 or 4 yet.
Well, yeah, without spoiling anything, it doesn't do anything new in terms of genre. It's just classic shonen, but it's done so very, very well. And it might very well just hit you in the feels a little bit.
I read up in the manga until the next fight coming up in the summer camp arc. The big one. And I stopped reading because I wanted to see it animated.
You will not be disappointed. It is very, very good.
I've read quite a bit further, and there's no like sharp drop in quality like there is in most shonen series.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm not going to say anything more about Hero Aka. It's really, really good. Go watch it. That's really it about for the anime. Unfortunately, I haven't had a whole lot of time to watch too much, even though there's a lot of rather good stuff this season.
Yeah, there's some decent ones there. I don't know if it's quite. I don't think we're quite at the standout season level.
No, but compared to the last few seasons, I suppose.
Well, I don't know. Like I think that it's actually more or less on par with the last season from what I've seen. Like,
yep.
You at some point you've got to stop giving a season credit for having the next iteration in a whole bunch of franchises that you like.
True.
Like, just because it's got the new Food Wars and it's got the new My Hero Academia and that, like, well, those were always going to be good. It doesn't actually matter when they appear.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the what will really make a given season memorable is whether or not the new stuff is any good. And most of the new stuff is a bit average.
Yeah.
From what I think.
There's a few things I would just outright call terrible and horrendously on the nose. Like, you know, the usual obligatory blatant fan servicing anime. Ugh. That, and you've got, as far as new stuff goes, I've been watching, it's really just Magical Girl Ore, except they cannot stick to a schedule. Their episodes just tend to turn up whenever. So yeah, that's it for anime. As far as games, I've dabbled a little bit with BattleTech, which came out this week.
Yeah, I've seen people on my Discord list playing it.
I've seen, well, my entire Steam list has been people playing it. Oh boy! So it's a giant robot game, but it's a Western.
By Raging SJWs.
Ugh, yeah. You can actually set your gender. Well, actually, no. You get to pick your pronouns, not your gender. But it's just he, she, or they. So I guess they're kind of just pandering to a point. But anyway,
yeah, well, you aren't pandering if you're an ideologue. You actually believe that crap. And
yeah,
it is known that the people that make it are Raging SJW.
That's true. As far as the game goes, I'm enjoying it. The little bit I have played of it, it does make this my computer actually chug though, which is kind of sad. Just well, I'm upgrading. So yeah, gameplay wise, it's a turn-based strategy game. You have your team of up to 4 mechs on the field, which you've already customized at some point in the past. You take turns moving them and aiming them, you know, that sort of thing. Things to remember is positioning is incredibly important, as well as orientation of the mech. So if you're shooting something in the back, they're going to take a lot more damage. Shooting something in the arm could remove that arm, so on like that. If you're thinking mechs, don't get them confused with mecha, by the way. These things are, for the large part, butt ugly. They're are basically a tank on legs.
Well, yeah, I mean, they are Western mechs.
Yeah. They're slow, they're ponderous, they obey the laws of physics.
None of this sounds fun.
Nah.
Well, I know Mech Warrior aficionados, the reason they hate recent Mech Warrior is because recent Mech Warrior is nothing like Mech Warrior. They actually like having to, control every part of your mech separately and moving extraordinarily slowly.
Yeah, a lot of the more recent games have automated a lot of stuff. Like there's a button to...
That's the reason why they're not popular.
Yeah.
Because there's no audience for that.
Well, I don't know. I kind of like the more simplified controls. I didn't like...
one man is not an audience.
No.
That's the thing. Like, what you're doing in that situation is you're tapping into, effectively, the first-person shooter audience. And you've got an awful lot of competition there.
Ugh.
You're basically getting rid of the sort of thing that made your game special and different to the other entries, which was the heavily systematized combat. Like, it was about operating combat. It was not about twitch. You couldn't, point and shoot a snapshot. That was something that never happened, ever. In
No.
area.
You had to slowly line it up. Oh, boy. Yeah, I remember playing Mech 2 as a kid, and that game was... It was fun, but it was very complicated.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. So, yeah, Battletech, you're not in the cockpit, you're doing your over-the-head type dealy if you've ever played the Mech Mercenaries games. So, it's enjoyable. I haven't played it so far that the story's gotten too bogged down. From what I can tell, there's a princess who's been deposed, and by some contrivance, you meet up with her 7 years later after she supposedly died. Or 4 years, whatever. And yeah, apparently go about putting her back on her throne.
Because of reason.
Yeah. The Battletech universe is... it's kind of like the Warhammer universe without the ham.
That doesn't sound good at all.
Yeah, everything's so very grim and serious, and humanity's out to destroy itself because politics.
I don't know why settings where the objective appears to be to die in the wasteland are so damn popular.
It's been a thing lately. So in this case, it's...
Like, there's only so much dying in the wasteland one can do, really.
Yeah. Well, this time you've got your choice of wastelands that you're going to die in. Sometimes it's a desert wasteland. Sometimes it's an Arctic wasteland. Sometimes it's an acid wasteland. And you've got a giant robot.
Well, I mean, I'm willing to consider that a plus.
Yeah,
giant robot.
Yeah, giant robots make everything better. Even if they are the slow and ponderous type. That's really it for my week. I've been just sitting around waiting for computer parts to show up. I'm probably going to spend a lot of my evening, when I'm not working anyway, tonight, backing up things on my computer. Because I'm going to blow everything off and start fresh, I think.
Takes forever.
It's not as bad as it used to be, thankfully. Like, nowadays, I can usually knock it over in about 2 or 3 hours. Instead of it being an all-day process. Alright, so yeah, that's my week. Next week's going to be more interesting, and we're going to be, hopefully, running the show on a effectively new computer. So, yay.
Awesome.
It will not explode during the show.
In theory. With any luck, yes.
Tempting fate for this show, I see.
Yeah, that's the Slime Rancher. Alright.
First game.
It's so cute and funny, and it's poo selling, but yeah, it's possibly going to cause my computer to catch fire again. We shall see. Alright, Vol, your week, sir.
I don't really have much to talk about because, well, it was a public holiday week.
It was.
That's actually a bad thing for me. Like, a really bad. a really, really bad thing. Number one, I don't get any extra day off. That doesn't.
What
Number
is
two,
this
everybody
public
else
holiday?
does. And that includes the clients. And because it includes the clients, it means that they're going to do a ton of extra work on all the other days.
Yeah.
And my workload becomes murderous, and I end up working, 9 hours plus every day, sort of thing.
Ugh.
It's just not fun at all. So I was basically too tired to do anything most of the time. I, dumped some hours into Monster Hunter where I had hours available, which was not very often. And yeah, I just haven't had time to do anything. There hasn't really been much week to speak of. I'm trying to think if I did anything that's even worth talking about, and it seems pretty doubtful to me.
FGO happened, I guess.
Yeah, I've been playing FGO. I've gotten to the end of the main story, which leaves the sort of like the appendix story that they always have to go. And it was, it was a simple story. It had a happy ending because, the Hero Butcher got instructed he wasn't allowed to make a grim one.
He wasn't allowed to murder everyone.
I unlocked the first copy of RSVL. I don't have any additional copies, and I don't have the Ascension materials, and I am really struggling to figure out how I'm going to get them. It's going to take some finagling and liberal use of command seals in order to get there, I think, because it's just too hard for me. And I've lamented that in the past, but the system is just set. This particular event is the difficulty is pitched to really screw people like me who just have no mercy for Gacha whatsoever because of the way people make their decisions about what to put in their support teams during an event like
yeah.
Because individual servants offer bonuses as well as their what's it called?
Their craft essence.
The craft essences. It's not based entirely on craft essences like it was in the Kara no Kyokai event.
Yeah, and a good chunk of the servants are mediocre.
Yeah, mediocre is generous.
Yeah, some of them just crap.
A good hunk of the servants are bad. Like Dermot is in the bottom half of Lancers. Ghidorah Saber is the worst Saber in the game. Ghidorah Caster is considered a meme tier servant.
He is so bad.
Kid Alexander Ryder is considered to be like the worst, one of the worst riders. Like he's not terrible the way Boudica is terrible, but he's bad. Like he would be terrible if Boudica didn't exist.
Yeah.
Kid Gil is like he's not bad because he's in the Archer class and Archer's OP. That's the reason he's not bad. But yeah, it's the whatchamacallit support list is spammed full of those servants because they offer additional loot, which is great. Except you kind of need to be able to fill your roster with servants that can actually kill your targets, and I can't a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I managed to rumble my way through all of the main storyline stuff, and I'm working now on the really tough fun things. So the other copies of RSVL are not from fights they're not defined to be harder than the ones that I've already accomplished. They aren't harder by definition. Like they're pitched at 60 at level 60, which means that I can do them with a little bit of thought. I'm not like completely out of the ballpark of power that can do it. The ones that are at 80, on the other hand, I'm sort of like on the ragged edge of being able to do them a lot of the time. Like there are certain things where if I've got the wrong servants, I can't. Like if there's the Ascension quest that will require me to say kill a lot of Lancers, well, I don't have any good sabers other than C. Like there's just nobody to fill the roster, and I have no idea how I'm going to do it. Like normally, under normal conditions, if I had a tough opponent like that, I would pick like one of my support list people's Okita and use that because Okita's an incredible single target monster basically for destroying Lancers. But those people have switched their their servants over to, you know, pointless random stuff for farming, for quick farming. Like,
yes.
So, like, as they call her, OG Saber, which is to say, Artoria is a really bad 5-star Saber.
Yeah.
Who just so happens to be a super efficient farmer. Like the same way that well, she's been in the game the longest time and had a pile of banners to up her rate. So a lot of people who spend a lot of money on the game have got her. So she's all over the place. But she's sort of like the way Kiyohime is a bad berserker, but you still want to have one leveled up because you can erase the second wave of farming when you're killing hands using her Noble Phantasm. It's like that. So everybody's got one, and everybody just wants to carve through early waves. And I don't want to carve through early waves. I'm willing to sit through killing the early waves properly if it means that I can actually survive the third wave. The problem is I don't have those killers that I need for the third wave. But yeah, I've got the storyline was relatively easy. I think anybody can do it. Anybody could do it and get their first copy of Irisville. The problem is the Ascension materials are just completely murderous. Chimeras, I ask you, why?
Chimeras. They are some of the worst things to come up against.
Yeah, I made a mistake and I had to blow a command seal to get me out of it. I should have targeted the Chimera first and obliterated it with Shiki, and then moved on to dealing with the servant. What I always forget, I forget every single time, and apparently this is something lots of people make the mistake. I forget every single time that Shadow Servants don't have a Noble Phantasm.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that too.
Which means you don't have to live in mortal fear of their bar charging up. Like, you can probably take that hit, you might lose a servant, but you probably won't wipe.
They're going to do...
Against a servant. A servant will often wipe the floor with you if you let their charge fill up and you don't have something to stop it.
Yeah. Like, they'll do a solid wedge of damage, and yeah, but it's not going to have any of the effects of a Noble Phantasm.
It's not unrecoverable the way Noble Phantasms can be.
Yeah.
But yes, I made the mistake. I mopped the floor with the servant and then got abused relentlessly by the Chimera. And my sixth slot had a level 1 Irie in it, so I was like, okay, how about instead of this, I will just use the command seal to overcharge, to charge up Ku's Noble Phantasm and then just blow him away, and I did that. Because Chimeras, man, I hate them. I absolutely hate them.
They
do
really
like
terrible.
9,000 damage a turn. Like they do a servant's worth of health. If you're me, who doesn't have any 5 stars, they do a servant's worth of damage every turn. So you can't survive for very long with a Chimera standing in front of you. So the Chimera is like the least of my problems. These missions are not friendly, but yeah, I'll muscle my way through. I would really like to get the Irisville stuff the first time round, because it will save me being so stressed out the next time it comes around, next time the event comes around, which will be a long time. It will come. But yeah, I'm at this sort of really demoralizing point with the game, really. I think that unless my luck takes a real turn for the better, the next time a lot of these events come around, I won't be any stronger.
Yeah.
It's going to be just as hard the next time as it was this time, because I can't seem to get the gacha to love me. My goodness. It's just been really, really tough. The most I can hope for is to get a few additional copies of some of my 3 stars. I can really beef them up. Like having Ku's Noble Phantasm maxed out has been a real godsend, because, you know, it doesn't do a huge amount of damage because his stats are not great because he's a 3-star, but it does allow you to put a pretty significant hole in somebody, and the same applies to Caesar. Like, Caesar has been a real anchor. The MVP though, apart from Shiki, who's always MVP because, you know,
she's ridiculous,
can do 125,000 damage with no type advantage and that's if she misses her attempt to instantly kill, she still does 125,000 damage. Aside from Shiki, the MVP has been Hans. Like, every single team that I have put together to fight anything remotely tough has had Hans on it, and he has done work every time without fail. Like, best investment of EXP cards ever. that Hans. Most people don't use Hans because they don't need to, because they have good servants. But you know, I'll take what I can get. Thanks so very much.
You found the best of the pleb tiers there, at least.
Yep, my 2-star will go the distance. It's not even 3-star, 2-star, max level 65, completely outclassed by everything else.
Hey, if there's a 2-star servant that's earned a Grail, it's probably Hans.
Yeah, and he's not a bad Grail choice, but remember, Grails are limited, so yeah, it's often very hard to decide where they should go. And I suppose though, like, Grailing Hans is the best way to guarantee that you get a 5-star, and it's a servant that makes Hans redundant.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, that's how you get a servant. You Grail Hans and you'll get like Waver, or you'll get Tamamo, or you'll get someone like that.
I really want me a Waver. Match him up with Gene Alter, and oh boy.
I've been the best support canonically is Merlin for Jolta.
Yeah,
he's not out yet.
He's not out yet.
Like he makes Buster servants completely insane. But yeah, I wherever I have had the opportunity provided by the story or by the support list, I have run double stall backing up Shiki for tough fights. So Shiki is the damage, the only damage, and I've got Waver and Hans basically pumping life into Shiki long enough for her to get to a Noble Phantasm and blow up the target. Like, that's been the standard strategy.
To be fair, Shiki does enough damage to make up for everyone else.
It's not an altogether uncommon strategy either. Like, it's sort of a poor man's variant of classic arts stall teams, where you're going to have like Tamamo Waver or Tamamo or Waver, and it's all going to be funneled into Vlad.
Yep,
that's like the classic art team. But I don't have Vlad. I do have Shiki though, and Shiki is doing a decent job as a substitute Vlad with instant death to boot. So
yes.
Yeah, I enjoy the game. Still don't want to spend money on it.
Incidentally,
have you looked at the price list since Australia became a thing?
I have not, actually. Where is my tablet? Let me take a look.
I was asking if you had, but yeah, I'm still not keen on spending money. Although I probably will spend money when one of the promotions finally comes up, where you're guaranteed a 5-star if you use paid quartz.
Here we go. Now that Australia is actually a market, I'm assuming this is in Australian dollars, by the way. One set's quartz, $1.60 per quartz.
Let's skip to the 30 because that's the only amount that matters.
The 30 quartz doesn't exist. It goes from 25 to 42.
Did they adjust the numbers of quartz rather than adjusting the dollars? Is that what's going on here?
I guess. As far as dollars value goes, it goes from $18 to 38 because logic. So yeah, 12. It's actually 16 quartz for the 18, or 36 for the $38 one.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, more than 30, as I said, is the only amount that matters.
Yeah, that's your 10 spin on the gacha. So you're going to be spending nearly $40 for that in Australia.
Ugh.
No, thank you.
Too. It's just so expensive. Like, it's bonkers expensive.
It is.
But,
if they even half that price would be I'd consider it.
Yes. Since exploding all of my Saint Quartz, failing to get anything like at all, I've managed to save up another 60. But I'm thinking I might just go into like full-time saving mode until Prisma Causeway comes out, which is going to be hard because the summer event has a ton of exclusive servants. Many of them are very, 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 very good.
Prisma Causeway, I'm assuming, is the Prisma Elia event?
Yeah.
Yep.
But they have Astolfo, so they can get away with it.
Astolfo.
No. Just no.
No.
No, thank you.
How is Astolfo as a servant? I haven't even looked at him.
Bad.
Yeah, I
He's
thought
not. He's not like Boudica, but he's not good. You wouldn't use him. Like if you're going to use a 3-star rider, you use Ushi.
Yeah, you would use Ushi.
Like there's just absolutely no reason that you would want to use Astolfo. Well, I mean, there's no strategic reason. A lot of people seem to have other more unsavory reasons.
Astolfo is people's waifu, yes.
For some reason.
And yes, Astolfo is male, and yet still manages to be a waifu. Because
it ain't
logic.
Natural.
I do like the scene in Apocrypha where Jean finds out that Astolfo is actually a boy.
She's supposed to have that data already.
She's the ruler. She's supposed to know that. Oh dear.
Even the throne is confused.
Yep. You've broken an immense magical concept. Well done.
But yeah. So, did I do anything else? I'm trying to. Did I watch any different anime that I haven't talked about? There was one actually, but it's not really worth talking about. I can't remember the name because it's sort of inconsequential. The internet is just not
the greatest one.
What? No.
No.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
I'm probably getting my titles mixed up, is why.
Oh, come on. Why is my internet so bad today? At least it's not interfering with my voice chat. It'll be in this list somewhere, but it's... The only real notable thing about it is that it's exactly the same in every respect that's relevant, really, as the Restaurant to Another World.
Oh,
from
dear.
Previous seasons. Like, it's just the same show. I don't know why it exists because it's the same show. I don't know, maybe it's made by the same people or something. It's an abbreviated episode length as well, I think. But yes, it does the same thing. Isekai Izakaya. Yeah, it's basically a Restaurant to Another World without the fantasy stuff.
Right.
There's less fantastical stuff, which makes it way less interesting. Because it doesn't feel like there's a story going on. But yeah, it's a shortened, abbreviated version of the exact same thing, except they have these weird live action segments at the end. Like the first episode at the end had a cooking lesson. I can't even remember what they were cooking.
Okay.
But they had it was just like from a cooking show, a cooking lesson on how to cook something vaguely related to what went on in the show. And the second one was a guy basically wandering around reviewing places where you could get fried chicken and beer.
All right.
Like most other cooking shows and travel shows.
Yeah, so that's what that show was about. There's not really anything additional for me to say about it, and I would recommend Restaurant to Another World ahead of that show because that show's basically a less good version.
Less good.
But what else? I watched another. Oh dear. I'm still not 100%. But I watched another episode of the Butler Battler show, and it's like it's living proof that girls watch fan service anime. Like,
yeah.
If Free didn't exist, this would still prove the point because every character is a Bishonen, except for a handful of female characters who are unnamed and exist entirely for the purposes of gushing over the main characters, in case you didn't realize that they were bishy. And they like constantly dress up as butlers, even if they're not butlers,
because reasons.
Because reason, like the entire thing, it's like the 100% the equivalent of a cute girls doing nothing show, except with dudes.
Okay, bishy guys doing nothing.
Yeah, basically. I mean, there's some there because of the nature of gender flipping the fan service. Doing strictly nothing wouldn't be sufficient for the female type of viewer because they all have to have a tortured past. So there is some sort of deep, dark story going on in the background, but it's real far in the background.
It's just inconsequential.
Yeah, like the entire thing is slathered in fan service. So,
Oh boy.
but yeah, what else? Is there anything else worth mentioning? I kept watching Caligula. It's still very odd, and I haven't quite been able to get a grip on it. It's very, very strange, and it's got a bit of a Shin Megami Tensei feel to it. My opinion on it is like it has the same sort of vibe in a
Okay.
lot of ways. Like it's basically, you know, the ordinary world, but it's wrong.
Okay,
And
that way.
It's wrong on a level that is out of reach of a normal person to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like you just watch it. I don't know how to describe it exactly. Like it's not really that subtle, but it's got that sort of thing to it where the world is not quite what everybody is supposed to think that it is, and it has been arranged this way for a particular reason, and nobody seems to be very happy with it amongst the protagonists, and so they are having their worlds shattered one at a time in various different ways. It all basically seems to be jacked into whatever their personal neuroses are, one way or another. Right. It's got the same sort of vibe, which is the only way I know how to describe it. There are a few other ones that I want to look at before the season is over, but I just don't have the sort of time. Like the one everybody's talking about is Megalobox. Like everybody says it's the best thing. I haven't watched any of it, basically because nothing about it appeals to me on the surface. Maybe it's really good if you get into it, but
it seems like boxing with robot arms.
Yeah, everybody says it's like super, super awesome though. Like just blows everything else for years out of the water. But I just don't really. It doesn't grab me as being something that I might like. Like an anime has to either the anime has to be egregiously bad looking, or it has to grab me in some way. Like some aspect of it has to make me want to watch it. Like I'm skipping the review show, so I didn't get forced to watch it this season. But you know, if it was in another season, maybe I would have watched the first episode. Maybe it'd be great, and I'd be following it ardently. But that's not the case this time, because you know, I just don't have nostalgia for that type of thing. Boxing isn't something I'm particularly into.
No.
But yeah, apparently there are a lot of people who are fond of classic boxing manga, and this is just sort of completely down their alley.
I guess.
Are they fans of classic boxing manga, or are they fans of Hajime no Ippo?
I'm not talking about Hajime no Ippo. Hajime no Ippo is not a classic.
Like, I wasn't even aware there were other boxing animes other than Ippo. Well, I knew they existed, but not that they were making any traction.
Now there are much older ones from like the 70s.
Right.
I see.
No.
But yeah, I don't. I might look at it if for some reason I end up with a lot of time on my hands, but I end up with a lot of time on my hands, and probably because I've been fired for some reason, so I don't know that happen. Yeah. Is there anything else that I want to talk about in that vein? Any progress on any of the ones that I've looked at? I don't really think that that's the case, but yeah, I continue to be mystified by the gacha one last period, because like the most recent episode I watched was very, very strange. It was entirely about collaboration events, basically. And so a whole bunch of the characters were from Higurashi.
Okay. What, they're just there?
Yeah, like I'm starting to doubt as to whether there actually is a gacha game associated with this, because they repeatedly say, don't spend money on the gacha, you'll go bankrupt.
You know, this sounds awfully like the Fate Grand Order manga, except without the sociopath.
Yeah, that may be so, but yeah, So they're sending the wrong episode for promoting a gacha by actually making the gacha an element in the story which relentlessly betrays the people, the main characters.
Yeah, that
Always
sounds like a gacha.
giving them no-name, one-star servants that they don't care about, who basically end up doing chores back at the base because they're not good for anything. And then they have this other message about how you shouldn't actually spend real money on the gacha because you would go bankrupt if you did. So, yeah, it's a very if there really is a gacha game associated with it, it's a very strange way of marketing it. They're sending the opposite message to what you would expect. But,
yeah.
I'll leave it there because I really haven't done much else to speak of. At the moment, I'm playing Monster Hunter again because I'm always playing Monster Hunter, really. And I'm trying to get stuff for the Dante event, which means that I have to fight Anjanath, Odogo, Rathalos, and Teostra back to back, which is basically like a little slice of hell for me.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to have a look at that event yet. It does sound really rough, though.
I've done it once. I've ground my way through it once. I didn't get carted. I used a lot of items, but I didn't get carted. And it's worth 36k, so you're going to come out of it with some stuff. But
That's something.
Yeah, and of course despite the fact you fight in the arena, it's not an arena challenge, so you actually get bits from it. So that's something, I guess. They're not tempered, thank the heavens, but they are high rated ones. So they will eat you if you aren't careful.
I see. Alrighty then. We're not quite an hour yet, but let's go to a break anyway, I think, because the news looks really kind of shallow this.
Alright, we do have an email as well, so that's something. We can fill some time.
Yep. So we'll see y'all in a bit.
See the rain.
And we are back.
Yes.
So, we were nearing the end of All's week, I think, and we went to a break. And do you have anything else, Paul?
I don't think so. I'm just going to keep playing Monster Hunter here, keep trying to avoid getting eaten by Teostra, who has not... He's giving me less trouble now that I'm using the Greatsword. Like, it's no longer an impossible proposition for me.
Yeah, he
But
doesn't
he's
just
also-
randomly fireball you to death from across the field when you're close up like that.
He's not. He's still not. He really doesn't want to be my.
No, he's kind of a jerk
That
like
doesn't really seem to be his thing.
that.
Yeah. Good old Teo. All right. I suppose we can do my week then. Although there is a whole lot of bits and pieces of stuff to talk about that I could talk about. I've had trouble picking which ones to talk about because there wasn't a whole lot of time to sit down and actually do anything.
No,
Like-
that feel.
I got a little bit of time in some things here and there, but mostly it was just more work. So yeah, I guess we can start with the main game I played this week. So continuing to use the 3DS FX because I'm going to get that 2 hours of diagnosis and 4 hours of repair worth of enjoyment out of this thing. Dang it! And I grabbed my own copy of Shin Megami Tensei 4
Okay.
Apocalypse.
Isn't that supposed to be
but
really bad, though?
no?
Okay.
That is Shin Megami Tensei 4.
Okay.
Yes, base game Shin Megami Tensei 4 is just bad. Like, there's no two ways about it. But it's so funny going through Apocalypse and just noticing every little thing they changed that was a scrappy mechanic in the first game.
Okay.
Most notably, the smirk mechanic. So, some genius decided to freshen up the press turn battle system for those that don't know. In the press turn battle system, and it's a turn-based RPG system where if you hit an opponent's weakness, you get an extra turn. But it goes both ways. If the opponents hit your weakness, they get an extra turn. If you miss or they block your attack because they're immune to it, you lose 2 of your party's turns.
Ooh.
So there were 2 main problems with gameplay. Well, there's 3 main problems with gameplay in the original game. The first was the smirk mechanic, we'll get into in a second. The second was there is no defense stat in the game at all.
Okay.
You just have an HP bar. And what this means, but the thing is they did not scale down any of the SMT damage that you're used to. So you wind up dealing thousands of numbers of damage on the screen, and it's impossible to keep track of how power scaled you are because your numbers jump so much every time you get a few points in magic or whatever. And this is compounded by the fact they now have gone away for just these 2 entries, the 40 points allocated to stat maximum. Like, that used to be the stat point cap for any stat. You could, after 40 levels of points, you could not put any more points into it. It's been that way for Nocturne, for Strange Journey, for Devil Survivor. This has been pretty much in every SMT game series except for Persona. And the press turn battle system was built around it, because this put a hard cap on the damage you could do and the amount of advantage you could take from those press turns. Now you can put an infinite number of points into any stats you want when you level up, and you get 5 points per level.
Mm-hmm.
And these stat points, at least for magic, correlate to about 3 damage per point. It quickly gets out of hand. So you wind up doing ludicrous damage and are taking ludicrous damage in return. You may think, oh, this is just quick blitz gameplay. This shouldn't be that bad, right? It's a turn-based RPG. Yeah, except when you don't start the combat phase because the enemy gets a preemptive attack. Your lack of defense. There is nothing you can do.
They don't even need to cast Mudon.
Nope, you're just going to get ganked.
Yep. you just gonna die. Not to mention, success rate of Mudo in that game was somewhere around 50%.
Yeah.
So things that did have Mudo would just outright kill you. So this was a problem because you're just herp-derping around, maybe you haven't saved in a little bit because the game's going nice. Enemy gets a preemptive strike and 2 AoE attacks and your entire party's dead.
Huh. How was that fun?
You just didn't happen to have a resistance to wind or whatever, and you just got owned. This is a problem. It has been addressed in Apocalypse, but we'll get to that. The last problem with the gameplay is the partner system. Throughout pretty much the entirety of Shin Megami Tensei 4 Classic, you had an AI-controlled partner with you that would take a free action for your team at the end of your turn. Okay, cool. Except for the fact that whatever move, they had a set list of moves they could use. Move that they used was 100% random.
Oh dear.
100%.
100%. Just a dice roll.
So basically, kiss your turns goodbye.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that didn't happen. It comes at the end of your turn. It's even worse. So the problem comes when that AI hits the opponent and the opponent is immune to or resists that element. Because this is one of the conditions that has about a 50% chance to trigger the smirk status. And the smirk status effectively means you lose reset the game if a boss gets it.
Ugh.
It's that bad. So what the smirk status does is anytime you hit a weakness, get a critical hit, resist an attack, or are immune to the damage of an attack, or you dodge an attack, there is around a 25 to 50% chance, depending on the action that happened, chance to trigger the smirk status. When this happens, you would get a little green smirky face next to your character's portrait. And in the classic game, you had 95% dodge rate while it was up. You could not be hit by weaknesses. The opponent would get no press turns for hitting your weaknesses. You would still take the damage, but it didn't matter. No press turns. Your next attack was a guaranteed crit and did 25% more damage. And there was a bunch of other stuff it did too that was you were immune to status ailments. And yeah, you can see why this was a problem if a boss gets it. Because if a boss gets smirk,
who would do this, Chief? Who is responsible for this?
It sounds horrible.
It was.
It's like this was the game made by the intern.
Well, at least that mechanic.
Yeah, this did not go over well with people, as you can imagine. So, yeah. It got even worse, though, in Classic Shin Megami Tensei 4. And it got worse where the partner you got assigned, most of the time, there were 3 main party members that would follow you around. And there would be at least 2 of them in a group. And there would be instances where there's a very famous instance with the first doorstopper boss that's going to stall you for a bit, called Minotaur. If you got Walter as your party member in that fight, as your assist partner, because it's completely random, you could not set them, you reset the game and just reloaded the fight.
He was that bad?
He only had fire and physical skills, and the boss was immune to both. So if Walter was your partner, the boss would get a free critical at the start of every turn and get more turns.
Okay, who thought that was a good idea?
It's Iron Man mode, man.
They should feel ashamed of themselves for that.
Yeah, somebody needs to have a turn talking to after that one.
Yeah. It's worse than Mitsuru randomly healing enemies all the time because she can't stop spamming Bufu.
I will gladly take Mitsuru flinging Marinkarans everywhere rather than go through that again.
She did like her Marinkarans.
So at least those are useless. They can't actually make things worse.
Yeah, Mitsuru can Marinkaran as hard as she wants. It continues to get worse the more I think about it, because the bosses all have a chance to start the encounter with a preemptive action. So if you get bad RNG going into a boss room, you can save anywhere you want, thankfully. That is an upside of the game.
So so they could potentially start the fight, hit you, get the smirk status, and then demolish you before you can do anything about it.
Oh, if they get preemptive strike, you don't have time to set up defenses. You can't put up your defense buffs. You can't debuff their attack at all. You can't force them to use dispelling moves. They get 3 full actions to do whatever the heck they want.
Oh dear.
Also, there's a random chance that any combatant on your side and their side will start with smirk. So, if you start the fight and the boss has smirk, even if you're going first...
Did the designer spend a lot of time at the casino beforehand or something?
Maybe?
Where the house always wins.
They must have, because this was a horrible idea, and everybody realized it as soon as the game hit store shelves.
That is the complete opposite of fun to me. Yeah.
Complete opposite of testing.
Also that.
Did they not do any testing?
I'm going to say
like,
no.
You're supposed to find out at least vaguely how people are going to react to your game before you try and sell it. That's the way things normally happen.
Yeah. We don't know what happened with this game's development and how these issues got in the game, because they're blatant issues that are huge problems, right? Like, anybody with 2 eyeballs could realize this isn't going to go over well. This goes completely against the design of the press turn system in general. If we're going to do all this, we need to change the press turn system. But apparently nobody decided that it was worth bringing that up. So what does Apocalypse do to change the gameplay?
Aside from ruining it.
Well, the smirk status now has a whole lot of conditions on its trigger, and has ways to remove it. They have a skill added into the game to specifically remove the smirk status.
That's something.
And it becomes mandatory on at least 1 party member late in the game.
Because smirk is instant death.
Yes.
Smirk is bad news. But yeah. But now, if you keep it on your fastest party member, you can just pop the smirk off and you can still get your press turns. It's just... That's the first big change that helped things a lot. Second, the critical hit is not 100% anymore. It's down to 75. They completely removed all the physical evasion from smirk. It's gone. Your attacks will still hit at the same rate as though they weren't smirk. They do not give you press turns for hitting their weaknesses, but they still take double damage instead of only 1.5 times damage. So they nerf smirk into the ground, but it's still a really powerful effect, but it feels more in line with the system now because there's a way to get rid of it. SMT has always been a get good, learn the debuffs and buffs scrub game. That's the way SMT works.
Yeah, but there's a difference between learn the debuffs and buffs and whatnot, but what they were doing there is, we're just going to insta-jib you for no reason.
Yeah, smirk just caused so many bad luck scenarios that it was not...
So you're going to hit one of them, sooner or later, no matter how good you are.
Yeah.
You're going to be holding down LR select start sooner or later. So that was the first big fix. The second big fix they did was they introduced more than 3 core party members that can act at the end of your turn, and you can choose which one you take into battle, and they will no longer perform an action if their action would cause the enemy to smirk.
Huh.
So they realized that was a scrappy mechanic real fast and fixed it hard with the new partner system. And the new partner system is actually good. They will target enemy weaknesses, and they have actually useful skills. Like the butt monkey of the first game, spoiler alert, he dies off screen in between games by drowning, peeping on a girl, and he comes back as a ghost with a green pompadour. And he follows you around, and he totally redeems his scrappy status from the first game by having all the buffs, all of them, and debuffs, including debilitate.
That's it.
The very first party member you get having to heal at the end of your turn about 75% of the time is a game changer for how you build around this aggressive playstyle in the SMT4 duology. Because you have a healer with you now at the end of every turn, you're not as likely to get screwed if you could not full heal yourself. Which, late game is not a problem. Early game it is, and she's the first partner you get. It also means she has absolutely no way to trigger the smirk status whatsoever because all her moves are healing.
Right.
So That was a very good change. And the partners actually have character and are a big focus of the story. They went a little more Persona-y in this one. And yeah. So just in general, they improved the gameplay a lot. Other things that have been fixed were the fact that the overworld map. You both of you played Nocturne/Lucifer's Call, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It was a while ago.
You remember
yes.
You remember the overworld map of the Vortex world where you were a little,
Yeah.
Yep.
little board game icon on a map?
Little peg person.
They brought that back. But in the first game, the map was so dark that you couldn't see anything. Everybody got lost in it. Even if you'd gone somewhere a billion times, it's too hard to navigate. It wasn't a matter of getting lost. It was a matter of not being able to see anything. Like, you can't find something if you're blind.
Mm.
So, yeah, they have addressed that, which I am thankful for. The map is now much brighter, and you can actually see where you're going. So they have cleaned up the overworld map. It is the same overworld map with huge chunks of it just removed.
Just the big, useless, empty chunks?
Yep. Angels and demons fight there and blow it up. Just to get rid of all this garbage space.
Oh, good.
That is the in-canon reason for why in the Apocalypse timeline the map is not as bad.
Not that we just fired the intern into the sun.
Pretty much. The story for the first game is rather heavily criticized for retconning a lot of SMT lore. The second game undoes all that. By effectively saying, actually, that's not who you think it is for the big bads. For any of them. These are not our usual Law and Chaos representatives, so effectively, Atlas said, we're throwing the story out. This is terrible for continuity. And they focused on a character-driven story instead that actually has a happy ending for an SMT game because it's a character-driven story. Assuming you don't pick the bad.
Well, yeah.
But you're a bad person if you do that. So, yeah. I have actually been enjoying my time with it. And I'm a little surprised because, and in case you couldn't tell, I hated SMT4. Like, a lot.
It's because it was a mess.
Like, a lot. It is rather impressive how hard they cocked it up.
Mm.
It just, I didn't finish more than the Chaos route. And just, there's so many scrappy mechanics in that game. Just go to the TV Tropes page. They have a pretty good coverage of it. Like, the freaking, to get the neutral ending, in every other SMT game, you just have to say a few things at certain key junctures in the story. Usually just say, no, I don't believe in your ideology, and move on to get the neutral ending. In this game, there's a hidden meter with different decisions weighing differently on that meter. And a last-second gotcha moment if you're perfectly neutral, making it impossible to go neutral because the last choice you make only has a Chaos or Law option and will tip you over.
So what are you supposed to do? Wait for the timer to expire?
Well, you can't see this thing. You have to follow a guide to get the neutral ending is how you do it. There's no way to tell what your alignment is. So I said, forget that. I'm not going for the neutral ending. I'm not completing the compendium. I'm not doing the bonus bosses. The bonus bosses, by the way, were not in some dungeon or have, unique unlock requirements like every other SMT game. They are like the very first SMT game and the only one to do this, where they are 1 in 256 chance to spawn in a very specific location every time you load the map.
Yeah, I hate that.
So
why would you do this?
Because they hate their players, I guess.
It is mind-blowing.
Ugh.
But yeah.
So they don't want people to play this game or something.
Sounds like it.
I don't know what was going through their heads or who was in charge of what at the time this was all going on, but they are clearly not anymore. Now there's just a bonus dungeon where you can go fight all the bosses at the end of the game. The compendium has a search function from Devil Survivor 2, which is more in-depth but less user-friendly. You can do things like set up lists of the stats you want on the demons, in addition to just their race and type that you're searching for and whether or not you can make it. it's a very big list of sliders and checkboxes you can check. And I have not played around with it very much because I've been busy working, and that is just a thing I noticed while playing. So yeah, I do not have a full report on the game, but all those complaints I mentioned about the first game have been addressed, and I know the story already. I blitzed through and got the ending, but did none of the post game content. And when I borrowed my friend's copy of the game and his 3DS, because I didn't have a 3DS at the time.
It was broken.
It was, but yes. But I really wanted to do more of the side quest stuff and the post game stuff because I really liked what was presented. It was like SMT Persona style as far as the storytelling was concerned, still keeping the classic SMT gameplay and cleaning up the royal mess that was made of it by the vanilla game. So yeah, there are a few changes I don't, but I'll get into them more when I talk about the actual game because it does have drawbacks. The duology is not as good as Nocturne. Period. Having played a bit more of Nocturne, no way. Nocturne's still a mechanically better game after 15 years because they just fell so hard on their face with the vanilla version of this game. Even the artwork in the vanilla game, by the way, has been completely touched up. All the new artwork done by the guest artist has been redrawn by the secondary artist on Atlus's team, Doi.
Okay.
Kodaka is their primary artist, but this guy drew characters that were so off-model and so weird that they look terrible in the game.
Worse than Devil Survivor?
Is this the like Michael Jackson with a tumor?
This is Michael Jackson with a tumor.
Why is that a thing?
Well, he turned him into Michael Jackson with a tumor after he cleaned him up and did what he could with the design, but the original one just looked like a blob with a giant tumor on his arm.
Ew.
Like, that was our new Lucifer design, and we're like, that's not loosey-goosey. That's not loosey-goosey at all. And it turns out we're right. That was not loosey-goosey as of the Apocalypse storyline because they retconned it.
It's like, no, the players are just not going to accept this being canon. You need to undo it, and undo it now.
Yeah, that's bad. What were you thinking?
Yeah. Even the Archangels were out of character, and they're just supposed to be douche canoes.
Yeah.
It ain't hard to get them right. Just act like jerks.
Yep. Or in the case of Metatron, chew on the scenery.
In the first game, they gave him a Dalek voice and made him sound like a robot.
Why?
Because they have a very a simplistic idea of what constitutes law.
True.
Yeah.
Continuity would be nice.
Continuity? We don't have that here. Don't be silly, Fern.
I know, right? What was I thinking?
But yeah, they fixed it. Everything's back in line with the SMT timeline now. And there is a DLC that actually explains a lot about the SMT timeline, the SMT multiverse, and the Amala universe, which Persona also takes place in, by the way. And it's a talk with Stephen Hawking, and I did not get to do it because I didn't own the 3DS. So I could not put my credit card on it and buy DLC. And I did not have time because I had to give my friend his 3DS back. But I'll play through it. I do not know the story of the DLC other than Steven is the bonus boss. You finally get to punch him in the face.
Right.
And you do it with the pro tags from the last 4 games.
I suppose it makes as much sense as anything else.
Yeah, the big final DLC super boss is Steven versus you, the Demi Fiend, terrible pro tag from SMT4, and the hero and Alf from the first 2 games. And you just all go punch him in the face. Yeah, it's really cool. I don't know what the mechanics of the fight are like. I've deliberately avoided it. But I'm kind of looking forward to it, to finally get some answers of how the dang Amala universe works, because they've been pretty vague about it so far. But this thing clears up a lot of stuff, apparently. So that is one of the 2 remaining 3DS games I've even thought about playing, and the reasons I fixed the system. So the other game that's worth talking about is I have played a little bit, as in one act, and you got to remember all that is past experience with SMT4 and Apocalypse coming through more than what I played this week. I had time to beat the first boss, and that was it. I had time to get through Act 1, which is about 4 hours if you know what you're doing, of Diablo 3 on PlayStation 4.
Yes. And surprisingly, you were
gushing about it
praising it.
non-stop.
Yeah.
I more as just being flabbergasted at how Blizzard just made it so much less of a chore than the PC version. Because I was conditioned to all these obnoxious things about the PC version. Like the way inventory being handled exactly the same as it was in Diablo 2 when I was never a fan of it. And the drop rates of legendary items for solo play was horrible. The inability to play offline. Hotkeys being a little slow to respond on the PC most of the time if you didn't use the ones Blizzard recommended.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just in general, no sub-menuing of the interface where everything is just on menus. General garbage like that.
Yeah. I know they fixed some of it, but I haven't looked at the PC version in quite a long time, so... Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how much they've transferred over.
So that's the thing, right? I don't have space on my hard drive to install PC Diablo 3 and check and see if some of these changes.
It is stupid.
Stuff I just mentioned is not... Yeah, all that stuff I just mentioned is not present at all in the PS4 version. It's all been changed for the better.
Mm-hmm.
But I do not know if this is Blizzard patching the game over time, because I can find no people talking about the PS4 version anywhere that are not 13-year-olds with spelling errors all over their posts. Who I wouldn't trust as far as I could throw them. And at the moment, my arms are pretty damaged. I can't throw anybody very far. So yeah, I do not know if this is just a consequence of them updating the game constantly for like 5 or 6 years now, or if it's just that the PS4 version is the definitive better version.
Could be either way.
Diablo 3 is a very simple isometric loot game.
Mm-hmm.
It is not complicated. There are challenging scenarios you can get into by imposing restrictions on yourself and playing at the hardest difficulties, but overall the game is not that challenging. It is a good podcast game, which is what I was looking for when I saw it on sale, and I'm like, okay, that could be a podcast game, because I've heard good things from a friend who's not in my state anymore about the PS4 version. He moved away, unfortunately. But he used to gush about it and tell me how much better it was than the PC version. And by all accounts, he was right.
They made so many big mistakes with the PC version, especially around launch. When, servers not working, the auction house, which was just the worst.
That was one of those moments that, like, it was sort of like, what's it called? Star Wars Battlegrounds, where a company just does something so flagrantly, obviously going to turn the public against them that you just can't understand how it ever got out of the drawing board.
Yeah. It's like,
yeah, and...
Did you even talk to anybody who was going to buy your game?
Yeah, unfortunately, that stupid auction house, like we all knew it would, had horrible repercussions for the game because it influenced the drop rates in the game for good items.
The only people who didn't seem to be aware that would happen was Blizzard.
Well, I'm sure they were perfectly aware of it and just pretending they weren't to save face. Because they knew good and well, if you make rare items stupid rare in a popular game and let people sell them for real money and take a cut of that money, you're gonna get bank.
Yeah. It's so hard to tell with Blizzard what's genuine ignorance and what's malicious intent half the time.
With Blizzard, assume malice. If it's a corporate decision, assume malice.
Well,
if it's a gameplay decision in the game, assume ignorance.
Assume the rubbing of hands together.
And mustache twirling.
Yeah, like the guy, it's like, ooh, money.
Money.
So, when it comes to stuff like that, somebody at a board meeting got promoted.
When they should, in fact, be shot into the sun.
There was some sort of pandering going. I think oftentimes I think, and my evidence of this is a little game called Mass Effect 3, that a lot of the really bad decisions that happen in video games. You know, the ones that are just egregiously bad and you can't understand how they ever get made, like, you know, the existence of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, is like somebody high up on the chain has said, hooray, I've had this really great idea, we should do this. And people who want promotions patting him on the back.
Because
saying,
money.
yeah, sure, because I want a raise. So we're going to say everything you do is great. Because, and the fact is that we know that this happened in Mass Effect 3. We know that the writers were shut out and that the producers wrote the ending that everybody hated universally.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the sort of thing that seems to happen. Is that, you know, somebody is high enough with enough influence to make the game their vision. Whether or not they're aided and abetted doesn't really matter. But it's just somebody from the top will decide they have a good idea and they will leverage it by hook or by crook, no matter how many problems it causes.
Yeah, see it all too often, unfortunately.
I hit a terrible leg spike right there. Pickle.
Yee. Pickle.
Pickle.
Pickles everywhere. Don't fight Devil Joe, by the way.
It's really, really hard to kill Devil Joe, especially when he's really big. He's in a really small room, and all he does is rotate on the spot over and over again, and clubbing you with his tail every time.
Yeah, the Pickle is a jerk like that.
Is not so much a fight as an obstacle course.
It's like getting caught in a blender.
Yeah.
It's not a fight. It's just a massacre.
Especially when he starts beating you with a great Jagras or something. Ugh.
Yeah. And Joe is the worst of the "is it my turn yet" monsters. He's worse than Rathian, in my experience.
That's because Rathian is just too busy going nuts and running around.
Like Rathian. Like, Rathian may not even be anywhere near you when going berserk.
Yeah.
But that's entirely possible, is that Rathian will just not be in the vicinity. You don't need to worry about that.
She just kind of loses her mind and starts running around randomly.
In the case of Devil Joe, he will just jump up and down on your corpse. Like,
yep.
That seems to be his main source of entertainment.
I don't like that "is it my turn yet" gameplay in Monster Hunter with Kushala Daora, Joe, when the Rathaloses decide they're going to go into their loop.
Like Kushala Daora.
I think when Kushala Daora does it, I think it's lousy. Like, I think it's actually sort of... I feel like that fight generates stupidity at a higher rate than Devil Joe, which just generates frustration.
You know what's fun? Invisible attacks. That's Kushala.
Kushala's fun and comedic scenarios in a group environment. But every time I've done that boss solo, it's been a slog.
Yep.
I didn't have too much trouble with him when I soloed him. I just basically wrecked. But the bow has a pretty hefty advantage. Because you don't necessarily... You aren't going to ever be standing in the wind wall when it starts.
And that's what really wrecks you. But yeah.
Yeah.
Kushala Daora multiplayer has generally involved a lot of running around and screaming.
Did you see that cartoon I linked about new Devil Joe versus old Devil Joe?
Multiple times.
I found it very, very amusing. I have no point of reference for old Devil Joe. I don't know.
Yeah, old Devil Joe, in some ways it was easier, in some ways he was harder. Like, you can survive new Joe's breath, for example. Old Joe would just demolish you with it. But,
there we go.
Oh?
Internet finally calmed down. It was having a hernia.
Ugh. That sounds unpleasant.
Yeah, like, I was hearing half of every word in your sentence. Both of you.
Oh dear.
But it seems to be better now. Okay. I just had to punch the adapter in the face.
Right. Alright, where were we before we started tangenting?
Right. Diablo 3.
Yes.
And which is, I guess, is a running theme between the two games I'll talk about. Scrappy mechanics getting fixed. So the first scrappy mechanic that's fixed, you can play offline.
Yay!
It doesn't even have to
Remember the launch?
Blizzard server.
The launch was awful. Most people,
launch?
yeah, you flip a coin as to whether or not you'd actually connect to the server at all.
What are you talking about? If you flip a coin, then at least half the people would get in.
Well,
Yeah.
that was to connect to the server at all. To actually get in after that was a different matter.
You to get into the server at launch, if you were not one of the first 100 people that pushed the button, you weren't playing.
Yeah.
The tubes got so clogged, everybody got stuck.
There was so much mad. On the
So
floor.
much salt.
Just so much. Yeah, the drowning salt.
Yeah.
It was a typical
I'm
Blizzard
surprised
launch.
I'm surprised that the basil juices didn't show up since they appear to live on salt.
They do. They feed on salt. But, yeah, the auction house is
yeah.
completely ruining the progression curve.
Implying progression
Yeah.
curve existed at all.
Well, it didn't.
That is the...
Yeah.
The progression curve didn't exist. It did exist for the solo players that were honest, but it was horrible.
Yeah. The whole thing was geared around
terrible.
forcing players to use the auction house.
Well, yeah, it didn't seem like a progression curve from what the few people I talked to about it. It seemed like it was just like you ran headfirst against a cliff face, and then you realised it was a cliff face, and you couldn't climb up the curve.
Yeah.
Before they implemented farming methods and took out the real world auction house and buffed the drop rates on PC version, what you did to farm was you would go find a rare spawn in the world by going to the areas they most frequently spawned at. You would set up a macro to open your menu, click all the pieces of gear that had plus drop rate on them and plus item quality on them, get the monster really low, push your macro, and finish it off and loot it, and repeat this. And that was all the end game was.
Mm-hmm.
It was a terrible end game.
Boring?
And the end goal of this was to either A, get junk to sell, which I did, or B, get gear to actually play the game. The PS4 version has never had those issues because it did not use the auction house.
Mm-hmm.
It had higher drop rates from the start, and they are still significantly higher than the last time I played the PC version. The last time I played the PC versions with the updated drop rates, the legendary tier of gear, I would be lucky if I saw one legendary off the Act 1 or 2 boss. And it would usually be garbage with randomized stats. On the PS4 version, I had 3 legendaries by the end of Act 1, and they were all appropriate for my class with both classes I was going through. I've started another character and got 2 legendaries that were also appropriate for the character as I was playing through.
So basically, you don't feel like a peasant the entire time.
You don't feel like you're being ripped off and having your time wasted.
Start playing the higher difficulties without the gear gap being there because gear does drop. The other, and because it's offline, how big this is for Diablo 3, because on PC, because you have to always be online, if you have to go up and do something for 15 minutes, you're going to be logged out of the server.
Yes.
And if that happens, your map resets. On the PS4 version, you can go wander away for 2 days straight, come back, remember you left your PS4 on, and your map's still the same as it was. This is a big deal. This is the biggest quality of life improvement they could have made for me. Because I have to get up and do random junk all the time, usually for work.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people do. I think that's the norm.
That's how you adults.
Most people can't actually just sit down and play all day on their video. As much as I would love to be able to do that, I can't. It's a practical fact of life. Sometimes you've got to go and do stuff.
Mm-hmm. I'd rather not.
So they have, what other scrappy mechanics did they cleaned up? They cleaned up the interface of the game a lot. It doesn't look like the clunky, ancient, basically Diablo 2 interface with a new coat of paint. It is actually designed for console use and has been re-optimized. The stupid box management of the inventory that's a carryover from ancient isometric games is gone. You have 60 slots in your inventory, and each item, no matter how big it is, takes 1. It's like a WoW bag.
Yay.
You do not have to stop and rearrange your bags every 5 minutes. Which is especially good if you need everything to be organized at all times. I do. It means I just don't have to fool with it. The menus and the actual game menus are radial menus, sort of. There's sub-menus you can access by pushing the analog stick in a direction when you pull up the main menu and pressing like helmet or feet. And it'll show your equipped feet and a list of all the feet you have currently in your blob inventory, which I haven't figured out how to actually just look at your inventory by itself yet. I think there's a way to do it, but I haven't found the button yet. And oh, go ahead.
This is a totally unrelated aside, but I'll forget it if I don't mention now. Speaking of paper dolls with equipment on them, this is a totally obvious thing that for some reason I never realized before. But nobody in Monster Hunter wears pants.
Generally,
Nobody.
no.
There's no pants slot. So technically speaking, there is nobody wearing pants.
It's more.
People are constitutionally incapable of wearing pants. In fact.
Hey, number 3 was worse, where you had people walking around wearing tiny blue underpants.
Right, back to Ari on inventory sorting.
Tiny underpants. Tiny underpants.
Oh dear. Hang on, my internet's acting up again.
Like the pants slot it's clearly a foot. Obviously. Just look at the icon, it's a foot.
It is a foot.
You've got your chest, you've got your belt, and you've got your boot. There's nothing in between.
Nope.
I'm glad that the girls like to wear skirts and dress in that game.
Well, yeah.
With their leggings.
My character just wears fishnets. Like, there's boots that go all the way up the thigh, but there's fishnets between them and the belt. There's no pants. No pants are being worn.
I deliberately went against the advice of the people saying the Odogaron set was a great set for dual blades because it makes you look like Mai Shiranui from King of Fighters.
That's
Most
worrying.
people consider that to be a plus. That's the thing.
This male
Mine
version.
makes me look like Sarah Kerrigan.
Yeah, it's
before
just,
or after mutation?
Afterward.
Oh dear.
Mixed sets is what I need to do, so it's a clown suit all the time.
The only thing that I am interested in is appearance.
I look like some sort of steampunk knight at the moment with a cape.
Does your Palico have fabulous hair?
What is my Palico even dressed up at the moment?
Probably Mega Man.
Oh yeah, it is dressed as Mega Man.
Which makes your hunter card look terrifying.
Yes.
Anyway, what was Ari saying?
What was Ari saying? Scrap the mechanics in the game that have been fixed. Forgot where I was going. Derailed 3 times.
You were talking about inventory sorting.
Right. So yeah, you can fairly easily compare and contrast gear. You can see each gear slots that you have inventory in your bag, but I don't know where the bag itself is. I think there's a button for it. I just haven't found it yet. And this is, while I do like it better than the PC interface for managing your inventory, it is not very intuitive. And I think that the menus are personal preference rather than being objectively better. Like, unlike the other 2 things. There was more, but I forgot. But basically, I've been surprisingly enjoying my time with the game. Since I'm able to actually get gear, I was able to start on expert difficulty and not take 10 years to kill a simple mob.
Well, I mean, all these things that you were talking about were the reasons that I hadn't pursued playing it. There was one big reason that I hadn't pursued playing it, and that I disapprove of the fact that Blizzard, at the time that Diablo 3 came out, Blizzard never made their games cheap. Like, the price of Blizzard games never dropped.
They still don't.
It wasn't a thing that happened. No, they do now. They have lots of relatively speaking for Blizzard, deep discount sales on their Blizzard launcher thing.
I gotta love that qualifier for Blizzard.
That's why I was able to easily buy Overwatch using WoW Gold.
Incidentally, have you played that yet?
No, I've never even installed it. But I don't even care because I spent WoW Gold on it.
Yeah.
Like, WoW Gold has no value to me, so yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's sort of like pseudo solved. It's not really solved, but at least now they don't refuse to lower their prices on principle the way they used to. But the other thing was that I had never heard anybody say anything about Diablo 3 that suggested that I could have fun playing it by myself if I don't have somebody online to play with. Like, I like to play Diablo games with other people, but everybody said that it was basically just complete hell on earth if you tried to do that. No pun intended. Like, it's just, there's no reason to, because the game will just fight you every step of the way. You won't be able to have fun because you'll never complete a build. You'll never complete a gear set. In fact, you will never get anything you want. That was the impression that I've been left with. So I never even bothered to investigate it.
Yeah. So in the PS4 version, it is not uncommon for solo players to complete named tier super legendary sets, which are above legendary. They're like green. I don't know what their actual rarity is called. But yeah, you can complete the in-game sets of those and finish a season's challenges for that gear set without having to play with other people or do stupid farming.
Oh, that's good.
Because what I want from games like that is the same sort of thing. You know, it's like the way I play Borderlands. I'm not actually trying to, you know, be number one or accomplish anything crazy with mechanics or accomplish anything crazy with numbers. I just want to be able to drop in, derp about, kill some stuff, and get something shiny. I don't even really care how shiny it is. but I want to get some stuff and feel like I'm making progress. But I heard a lot of people say that they would just hit a wall and feel like they never made any progress in Diablo 3 and just stop playing.
Yeah, I heard that a lot as well.
Yeah. Like, you will finish the main story, okay, but anything after that is just like, it takes forever to kill any basic mobs without gear, and gear doesn't drop in the PC version. I've heard they made it better, and I played again after they made it better, and it was better, but it was not this, from what I've seen in Act 1 of the game. Now, granted, I'm probably not the best case for this, but the fact that there are reports out there of people being able to finish full legendary sets at in-game solo is testament that it's still better than the PC version, because I was not able to do that on the PC version without stupid grinding shenanigans that I did not want to do.
You might be trying to pull down the PC version and have a good go through it again.
No,
but then I have to reinstall the Blizzard launcher and app. I don't want to do that.
I still have WoW on my computer sucking up like 100 gigabytes of my freaking what's it called?
Could be worse. I've still
flash
got Ark.
drive.
Ark chews up about 150 to 200 these days.
Did you put yours on a solid state?
No, I did not.
Yeah, WoW's on my solid state.
Oh dear.
But yeah, I guess, like, for me, I've never actually been in the state of life for a long time where my main gaming device is a console, but that has really been the case. Like, I don't really care about PC releases anymore. Like, the PC is a game for me to derp about playing, like, cheap games from Steam or JRPGs that get ported to Steam and therefore become incredibly cheap, namely Neptunia, like every Neptunia game ever. Like, so the PC is a Neptunia machine, therefore it does not require much power. The only other game that I play with regularity is probably Fate Extella, but I'll probably pick up Extella Link on the console, even if it costs more, because I just like to play on this device, and I can put my fancy hat on and get terrified. So, which happens a lot, actually.
Oh dear.
But, yeah,
Extella Link is really shaping up to look great.
Yeah, if you like Muso games anyway, Ari doesn't. So I still think that Ari should blaze through the storyline, because for a Nasuverse fan, there's a lot of systems building for the way the universes operate, and Extella is a canonically existing universe alongside the other, operating by a set of rules. So it's sort of like rank 3. The first rank is the main one. The second rank is the FGO universe. Third rank, Extella one.
All right.
Yeah. So it is a thing I want to do eventually. It is not that I hate Musu games or don't like them. It's just I can't get into them. I keep trying because it seems like something I would enjoy. I like grindy, repetitive action games like that in general. But I just can't get into them for some reason. There's something about it that I haven't identified that just doesn't click with me.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a matter of taste. I like them, and I've been hungrily following all of the information released. I just so happened that I think this week's ones were Scathach's character trailer came out and Astolfo's character trailer came out.
Oh dear. I just need something to fill that Dynasty Warriors shaped hole because 9 ended up being awful.
Did you play it?
Haven't yet. I'm really hesitant to spend money on it. I probably will if I see it on discount.
I'm waiting for discount as well because the case just seems to be with Dynasty Warrior games is that you absolutely cannot trust reviews because lots of reviewers will mark it down for being Dynasty Warriors and they think that is totally reasonable. That, you know, once you get to entry 9 in a franchise which has 5 spin-offs for every numbered entry, that it's somehow reasonable to assume that the game is not aimed at the people who bought all the others. Like, that's the thing. Like, they will always mark it down for being the same as the other one, despite the fact that's what people want.
Mark it down for having terrible voice acting, despite that's a mainstay.
I think that if one came out that had immaculate voice acting, I think people would be sort of bushwhacked by it. It would be like that Spirits Within movie, where everything just feels wrong.
Yeah.
But I just can't get a beat on how good a Muso game is based on a review because they always review. But sometimes they are genuinely bad. That's the thing. They aren't always good. They aren't even always very Muso. Some of them are just like, you know, odd ducks that stick out because they're horrid. And so it's hard to get a feel for them without playing them. Like, I mean, I know that there are lots of things about Fate Extella that are really bad, but for me, the fact that it's Fate Extella sort of like pays off that bill. But for a lot of people, it really won't. So.
Yeah, there's things in Fate Extella that annoy me no end, I have to admit.
Have you ever gotten caught standing in a circle of those flying things before?
Ugh, yes.
I think it is actually mechanically impossible to get out of that.
I think you might be right.
If they get you in the right situation, you don't have a button to press that will break everything. Like, it's like, will you charge up some kind of meter to get you out of it before running out of health so that you can break the lock, or will you just get stun locked?
Yeah,
like,
in that case, it's just like stun locked.
Because it's just knockdown. You can't do anything.
You can't even do your Extella maneuver in there.
Yeah, it's you need to have a fluke gap to get out of it. Like some random fatty wanders over and pushes them out of the way, or something like that.
Yeah. Ugh.
Anyway, we've got email to read.
We do. Who wants it?
Unless we've still got an even longer week to go. Because I'm totally cool with that.
We tangented to death in Diablo, but I was going to talk about how I like the controls on the controller itself, but I'll save that for when I've got more experience with the game. We can put that off.
We can talk about that more later. I mean, what you've been saying over the past week or so has made me like put it back on my watch list. Like, I will keep an eye out for a sale for the PS4, and if I see a price that I deem acceptable, then I'll pick it up. Because I do like ARPGs, I just don't like ones that are abusive. And Diablo 3 on PC, everybody said it was abusive to the solo player who doesn't want to get involved in that. Like, this is the thing, that the reason I never played Path of Exile, I installed it and never played it, is because I talked to some people about it, and all of them said the only thing that really matters is item trading. Like, unless you are furiously into the item trading multiplayer scene, you can't progress. Period. End. So, yeah, that put me right off of that. And the reason that put me off is because I heard the same thing about Diablo 3 and a bajillion people quit over it. So, there you have it.
Yeah. So I'll wrap my week up with this then, and just say I'm going to be talking about the Valkyria Chronicles remaster once I get more than 2 missions into it. I also picked that up from the
I love that game so much. The problem is that I'm really, really, really stupendously bad at it, and I can't get past most of the stuff. Like, I may just get a step-by-step walkthrough and play through it that way.
It is not a forgiving tactics game. It is not the hardest I played, but it is certainly not baby's first tactics game. It's not
the most punishing tactics game imaginable, but it is also probably the one which is the easiest to make a mistake because of the physical way you control the game. It's not like, it's most your average strategy RPG has everything is in boxes. Like everything is in very obvious, clear units, and you can pay units out in a precise way. The precision is all, behind the veneer of the gorgeous graphics on Valkyria Chronicles. So it's very easy to make a mistake and not realize you're making it.
Yeah. The other thing with Valkyria Chronicles is unit placement is just very difficult to learn how to do right, and it takes a lot of failures before it just starts clicking. It is.
It's something that's 100% gut-based as well, for the same reason I just mentioned. Because there's no particular square that you can put a unit in. You just have to hope that it's standing in the way that you think it's standing, in the place that you think it's standing.
Yeah, it's like, is that dude going to see me when he comes running around the corner? Because I've failed this mission 3 times already. Is he? Did
Yes.
he? And it's up in the air whether he did or not.
Yeah, the game is just, it's 100% in the category of, if I ever play through it, it will be with a rigorous, this is what you do on action 1, turn 1, this is what you do for your second action, and so on and so forth, because the game is just too hard for me. I'm too much of a baddie to. I watched my flatmate in a previous flat many years ago play through it and finish it. Like, I sat there and watched him do it, but he failed so many times, and in the end it came down to like one sniper shot that he needed to make in order to clear the mission, and he just had to play over and over again until the sniper hit.
Huh.
Yeah.
Because it was set up in such a way that there was no going back. So he just had to do it. Had to get through it. It's a very, very unforgiving game, but it is like excellent along every image. Aside from the fact that it's totally inaccessible to people who are bad. Like, it's not a matter of it being hard for people who are bad. Like, you need to be good at tactics games. Like, otherwise don't apply.
Oh dear. That excuse me, I'm rubbish
Yeah.
at those sorts of games.
Thankfully, I came into it with a background in like Fire Emblem and stuff, and Disgaea, so I was ready to go.
I had never touched one before. Like,
Oh dear.
what's this?
And
It looks fabulous, and it does look fabulous. Even when it was not remastered and was just new, on the 3 it looked fabulous. But yeah, no, it's ruthless.
yeah,
It's
it was not. Yeah, it was Fire Emblem, Fire Emblem 7 Blazing Sword hard, but it was not what I would call an easy game.
All right.
So yeah, I will talk more about that next week. If I have time, I have barbecued my arms cutting the grass. So the unfortunate thing with sunburn is it drains energy from you. So
Yeah.
I hope in the little bit of downtime, which I do have some next week, I'll actually be able to muster up the energy to play some games because my downtime's in the next few days. I may be
Should have
crashed.
Lots of water.
Sunburn
I
is
am-
serious business.
Yeah, I've had 30 ounces since the start of the show, and I refilled it.
For some
yeah.
reason, the healing from sunburn always makes me dehydrated. So I find that drinking lots of water is critical. I think the repair processes must just use up a lot of water for the reactions or something.
Maybe. Anyway.
I'm not a sunburn expert. But yes, that is my week that got long because of tangents.
So many tangents. And speaking of tangents, we got an email.
We do. So I've been going for a bit. Somebody want to get it?
Oh,
I could try. I might start coughing at some point though.
I'll give it a shot.
Dear No Excuses. No Doom this week either. You can already tell who. Brutal Doom version 21 is just around the corner for like a year now. However, I did play a bunch of platforms. The first one would be Celeste from the Precision Platforming School. Unlike Super Meat Boy, it actually has a story, which is fairly cliche, but it makes up for it with the fun, not as brutal platforming. Each chapter has a unique mechanic which adds a slight puzzle bent to the gameplay. It is indie, therefore must be pixely.
Of course. And
Also
that's required by
has the
law.
Also has the standard good indie music, quite a bit of hidden levels, and an easy mode if you don't want to lose all your hair but want to see the story.
Excellent.
Continuing the trend of female protagonist platformer, we have Iconoclast, which is marketed as a Metroidvania, which it is not. The game has a linear story, only 2 optional bosses, with the hidden stuff being more crafting material. The game alternates between locked and open world story chapters. As for crafting and exploring and such, I ended up just using 3 times damage shields, which I got in like the first 2 chapters, with the occasional swimming upgrade for the underwater segment. So yeah, it is no Hollow Knight. Apparently for the current indie buzzword is Metroidvania. Also, the title screen has happy music and everyone's smiling. Holy bleep, things get dark in this game. Tons of off-screen death, only a couple of on-screen deaths, but they are of the disturbing kind. People melting away from the inside and such. Oddly enough, I saw blood only in 2 places. Music's good, graphics are less pixely, standard indie fare. Speaking of things getting dark, the final contender is The End is Nigh, the spiritual successor to Super Meat Boy. This, along with The Binding of Isaac and the Basement Collection, shows that Edwin McMillen doesn't have issues. Dude has several subscriptions.
Oh,
in the traditional Super Meat Boy vein, we have brutal precision platforming in several different locales. The music is surprisingly not chiptune. We have 19th to 20th century classical music reworked for some end-of-the-world fun. Seraphis.
Yeah. Oh, let's go through this one backwards, I guess.
I have not looked at End is Nigh at all. I've been aware it's existed, but I haven't looked at anything for the game. I don't even know what genre it is.
Yeah, I've seen End is Nigh around. I haven't really fiddled with it. The one I'm actually been keeping a slightly closer eye on, aside from Mugenics, which he seems completely determined not to make, is Legend of Bumbo, which is the prequel to Binding of Isaac. And it looks severely screwed up.
I see.
Is he like working out? Like, is this an artist thing? Do they have to work out their issues through creating disturbing things?
I think Ed McMillan, in his case, is not so much working out his issues as just embracing them and running with them. Because all his stuff is just weird and dark and usually very, very macabre.
I can understand writing a character and putting a lot of work into it and then having it meet a terrible end, because it's like kicking over Legos. You smash the Lego creation when you're done building. There's some fun there.
Yeah.
I don't get the kind of like just weird artsy stuff that like Edmund McMillan does. That's just weird and disturbing.
Yeah.
The whole way through.
Well, the thing with Isaac is, yes, it's weird and disturbing and plays with a lot of dark themes and dark biblical themes. But underneath all that, it's still a very solid, very good game.
Not really. It has Bible names, and the mom happens to be a Bible thumper, but there's no biblical themes in Isaac at
well,
all.
that's what I mean. It just takes cues from
themey.
it. Yes.
It has Christianity as a theme, but it is. I would not say it has biblical themes, because nothing is analogous to any story in the Bible.
Oh no, it's not. So yeah, it's Bible themed. So anyway, it's still a very solid game.
So I'm not going to pass comment on that.
No,
I haven't seen anything to suggest that it's anything other than names, though.
It's largely just names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going backwards again. I actually have these 2 games he mentioned sitting on my PS4.
Oh.
They've been on the hard drive for about a month and a half, 2 months now, and I've been meaning to play them because I want to see why people are calling Iconoclast a Metroidvania and why people are calling them out on it. I've intentionally not looked up anything about the game itself because I want to go through it without being colored by the game's journalism.
This is the game's journalism,
which is very this day and age, I might add.
Ugh.
But yeah, just this weird pixel art indie game is something I have trouble getting into and just getting started with. Some of them I wind up liking, but it's hard to get into when they just look like that. It looks fine for pixel art. It's not bad pixel art, but it looks like an indie game. It smells like an indie game, and it's got conflicting reports that what the game is not what it's advertised to be, which doesn't ever sit well with me and makes it hard to get started. Yep. Celeste is just a challenging platformer I have to be in the mood for, and it's just kind of sitting there.
Alright, yeah, probably best to go in it with that mindset. It's a platformer at this point.
Yeah, So yeah, I will eventually talk more about them at some point.
I find it very hard to credit pixel art games as doing pixel art for any reason.
Yeah. there's very few that really kind of justify it. Shovel Knight's probably really about the only one.
It just always seems like they're going to an artistic place where they can just make an excuse for anything that's not very good by saying, "Oh, but it's supposed to be like that because Muppets."
Yeah,
but we have a metric for just categorically these guys are not the best the indie scene has. Period. One dude in a year and a half did all the artwork for Hollow Knight, all of it.
Yep,
every asset. There's somebody better than you. Period. You suck at your job, artist. If you have to work pixel art. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Well, that's the thing, though. I think they're sort of running away from that because to do something like Hollow Knight requires a good art director, even if the art director is the same guy as the artist. Like they need to have everything tied together. Mm-hmm. I think that the pixel art is a way of thematically tying your art together without bothering to thematically tie any of your art together.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's not always that way, but I think that it gets used that way by a lot of people these days because we see a huge profusion of them.
Yeah, like there's pixel art done well, and there's so much more pixel art just as rubbish.
The reality is that in any case that you care to name, as a matter of personal taste, I would prefer Hollow Knight to any kind of pixel art that you would prefer to give.
Oh, hands down.
Absolutely.
It's just the way. That's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Yeah, like Hollow Knight is just proof that all indie devs suck at their jobs. That's just
like lift your games,
that
indie
whole
devs.
Game was made by 3 dudes in a year and a half. 3 dudes, year and a half. No more excuses, indie devs. That's it.
Name drop.
I will name drop that game to death, sir. It deserves it.
I'm not trying to name dropping the show, but whatever. What else? Celeste.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, you just realised it. I have not even looked at Celeste, I'm afraid. It's not one that's really come across my radar.
You're a girl climbing a mountain, and it's a really hard platformer, and it's got a story, and it's sitting on my PS4.
Right.
I gotta be in the mood to play that.
Yeah, you kind of do.
Yeah, that is one that's going to sit there for longer than Iconoclast. Because I have to get in the mood for a challenging platform.
All right. Is that it for the email?
Unless any of y'all have Doom stuff to talk about.
Yeah,
I don't have Doom
stuff
to talk about. I never have Doom stuff to talk about.
We love you, Serathus.
Except the Doom movie, I guess. That's the sequel to the Doom movie is supposedly going to have a female lead. Because there's so many female characters.
I remember
the first Doom movie was bad.
Fantastic. The Rock was in it.
That kind of immediately makes it bad.
For that movie. I had the PSP UMD for that movie. I liked that terrible movie.
Oh, dear.
Because it's so bad.
Yeah. So, I guess they're gender flipping Doom Guy, but Doom Guy has absolutely no personality whatsoever. So, what are they hoping to accomplish?
They're hoping to accomplish, I don't know.
They gotta show the female Doom Guy or Doom Gal and her maternal bonds with everyone and being everything that isn't Doom Guy. Or no, they'll just make a girl that just probably has a penis.
I don't even know if that thing I posted was real or not. Like that's the level that
we kind of reached a point where it's
the reason why you took off is because it's totally like there's no it's a totally meaningless gesture in every imaginable way, and yet it's entirely likely to happen, and it won't help anybody. It won't make anything good. Won't accomplish anything. It will just, be another step along that march to, pointless wastes of everybody's time and money.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Don't stick ovaries in pure distilled masculinity. We don't stick testicles on femininity. Please stop. You do, but we don't.
No.
But but
What?
Astolfo.
No. So that went horribly. So thanks for the email, Sarah. You've sent us to some truly horrible places that have Astolfo in them again.
Sure.
I guess. All right. We have some news. A little bit. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
a
we
lot of
have
the industry
some
went off
news.
playing
Yes.
Dad of War.
Yeah, and I don't think that we're ever going to get the true story on what Dad of War is like without playing it, and I don't really have any strong.
Yeah, I don't really have any strong feelings about it one way or the other.
We're at that sort of point where a game being a critical darling makes me immediately suspicious.
Yep.
Like, I am more likely to assume that it is bad than that it is, which is sad, really.
It is.
Yeah. Well, these people have opinions that do not line up with ours about video games. We do
No,
not like the
anyone's.
games that they like, and they do not like the games we like. In general, if they like, yeah, in general, if they like something, there's probably a lot of reasons we won't.
Mm.
Yeah. The chance of this being a golden darling that appeals to everybody is practically zero.
Yeah. So we can't really talk about Dad of War. What can we talk about?
I will probably play it at some point out of curiosity, so I'm dodging all info about the game. But it will not be until I can walk into GameStop and get it for $40 or lower.
Yeah.
This probably won't be all that long, to be honest, because these games are always flashing them.
Yeah. Every critical darling that's a AAA game doesn't stay expensive for long. And it's a single player game, so people are going to turn it in droves.
Oh yeah. Well, as soon as they finish that storyline, then that's it. They're going to sell it in.
Speaking
Okay.
of bad,
Let's see.
speaking of prices,
Oh.
this is a minor segue. Guess what I saw Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite for while I was looking for sales when I went for birthday presents?
-10.
They're paying
No, they're not
them
going to
take
pay
away.
you.
They should.
But they had double digits number of copies. I didn't count them, but it was more than 10 for $6 each.
Yeesh.
And
That
even then, I
is-
didn't scoop it out of curiosity. I left it in the box.
Just don't want to
No,
contaminate your
no.
console with it.
Nobody wants that game.
No.
It's cursed.
It's just rubbish across the spectrum. It's just terrible.
So
What were you thinking, Capcom?
this segues. So yes, speaking of Capcom, this
What were you-
segues into a newslet.
Okay.
This was my actual intent. So, less than a year after releasing a terrible re-release of Capcom Puzzle Fighter on iOS, I think it's on iOS. I did not play it,
Nobody cares.
but I've heard people talk about it. But yes, it's shutting down.
Yeah. Precisely because nobody cared.
Yeah, they have already, in like a month, the game servers are going offline. It's been out for less than a year. It is a terrible, money-grubbing remake with time gates of Puzzle Fighter.
People
Which
loved
one?
Puzzle Fighter.
Yeah, Puzzle
Yeah.
Fighter was a fun game. I played the original Puzzle Fighter. I have no idea about this version, but yeah, this one had like time gates on it and stuff, like general iOS grubbiness.
Ugh.
Capcom's just got this fascinatingly thorough talent of taking a good thing and running it straight into the ground. Like, how do they do it? Is there a school you can go to learn that technique?
Yeah. Well, if we're going to come back to Marvel vs. Capcom again, like they had a sure thing with that game, except they ruined it.
Yeah, they MVCI'd the Puzzle Fighter series as well as the Marvel vs. Capcom series.
Yeah. Do not
So,
let them
yes,
into the Monster
this-
Hunter room.
this-
Ugh.
Yeah. Thankfully, their dev teams seem pretty segregated from each other.
It seems so, yeah.
And apparently their marketing teams as well, because the good games generally stay good with free updates like Resident Evil 7, which had a whole new campaign added for free, and Monster Hunter, which gets free updates all diddly dang time.
Mm-hmm.
So they stay fairly segregated, so I think we're okay. But the bad team got a hold of Puzzle Fighter. And yeah, it's gone so poorly that they've just thrown out effectively an unlimited number of in-game purchasable currency with real money and just said, have fun for a month. We're closing down the servers in a little bit, less than a year after launch.
Wow.
And from some reports, after they did this, the game was actually playable and was fun. When they got rid of all the mobile time locking bullcrap.
I can believe that.
Yes.
Oh dear. Capcom, why are you so Capcom?
I just can't help it, man.
They can't help. They've got to be Capcom.
I really don't want to beat up on Capcom. They got IPs I really like, but I just need them to like either get good, or say to somebody that's going to treat them right, and then I'll stop beating up on them. That's a lie. I'll keep beating up on Capcom.
Yeah, that's completely a lie.
It's a running gag at this point.
Except for the Monster Hunter team, we'll give those guys a hug.
Well, yes. Whatever independent dev team that is the bad team at Capcom.
Oh, dear.
They probably have, like, Arc System Works has a red and blue team. The red team does Guilty Gear, and the blue team does BlazBlue and spin-offs.
Yep.
But they have a bad team and a good team.
Yes.
Or several bad teams and a couple good teams.
Alright, what have we got else for news? I suppose we got the Smash Brothers at E3 thing, which is just a more of a note. So
we all knew something would have to be said about it if they're announcing it this early.
Yeah, something they're going to have to show something either in a Nintendo Direct or a E3 presentation, which, well, these days is basically the same thing anyway. So at E3, or the E3 related presser, whatever Nintendo ends up doing this year, Smash Bros. Is going to be playable, the new Smash Bros.
Yeah, and that's what right away tips off that this is a 99.9% chance that this game is an updated re-release.
Yeah.
It'll use the same engine, the same roster will be there with a few new characters tacked on and a few new maps.
Yeah.
Maybe a new game mode or two. But it will be the same game, but the definitive version, just like Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Yeah.
I'm fairly convinced that there will be a whole raft of people making excuses for why this counts as a new game. And there'll be a whole raft of people who are incredibly butthurt. Like, there's not... This entire thing is just going to be a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been arguing this point with a Nintendo fan who, for his sake, I will not name, but I mentioned him on the show before, and how this is most definitely a port. And I'm just waiting for the point where I can say, called it.
Yeah. At this point, saying that the game is playable at E3 makes it almost a certainty. If they were saying they were showing it off at E3, then yeah, it could be Smash 5. But if it was Smash 5, I'd say they'd be making a bigger song and dance about it.
Yeah, they've jumped from teaser to playable in a relatively short time, and if there's one thing that I've noticed about the Switch is that they must have made it super port friendly, because there's a pile of stuff coming out on it, way more than historically.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense they would, because their old console sold like garbage, and they've got all these games that they can just re-release.
Yeah.
Looking into you, Bayonetta 2. You were a good game on the Switch. You did not run well on the Wii U.
So did Wonderful 101, for that matter. Also by Platinum.
Is that on the Switch?
No, but there is talk of it getting a port done. I think at this point, though, it's either rumours or, fan wishing.
I have the Wii U version sitting on my desk over there on my game shelf, but I haven't ever played it.
Such a good game. It had its faults, but it was a very good game.
I meant to play it, but it was on the Wii U. And my Wii U's over there, and I can't be bothered to plug it in. It's that bad.
Nah. Alright, so that's that. So we get to sit around all smug at well, actually, we're going to do that anyway at E3. We get to sit around and be all smugger.
Yeah. Yeah, I do not know how anybody believed this was anything other than an updated re-release, though. It
wishful thinking.
Blows my mind.
Combination of wishful thinking and Smash Bros. Fans being crazy.
Like, the dev cycle for a Smash Bros. Game is part of the hype for release. Mm-hmm. Like, we know how slow it is and how long it takes to do these, because Sakurai is not a good project manager, period. And at the end of the day, people are like, oh no, they totally suddenly got their act together and got this game out in a year and a half, right after the last one.
Nope.
No,
it's been 2 years, hasn't it?
Are you dumb? It might be 2 years now. But still, that's not enough time for Sakurai to build a new game from the ground up after he just finished a new one with new ideas and new mechanics and a new engine. Not happening.
Nah, not happening.
Not happening at all. This is just them re-releasing their most popular game on their last console to get more sales because the new console has sold better and nobody bought a Wii U, so nobody bought the old Smash Bros.
Yeah. So, hey, I'm going to admit, though, if they do turn out and say, hang on, we've been working in secret, this is actually Smash 5, to be, first and foremost, incredibly surprised, but ultimately happy for it.
I don't know. Unless they've changed their character as developers completely, I would be expecting it to be a total pile.
Yeah.
Remember,
carried off in that amount, in that tiny sliver of time, without stoking the hype engine they traditionally do. I would assume there was something had happened behind the scenes that was really bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the last couple of Smash Bros. Games, they've had the massive multi-month lead-up and unveiling a new character every month and making a new big song and dance about the new reveals, and yeah.
Yeah, they ride that hype train for like a full year and a half before the game comes out.
Yeah.
We're expecting them to have developed an entire game in that time.
Yeah. Not happening.
Not happening. And there's a whole bunch of other evidence for it too, but I've already talked about it on another show, so I won't get into it here.
Yeah.
But yes, just waiting around to say I told you so to especially one select person, but a few others.
All right, what else we got?
I gotta pull it up.
Oh dear.
So, okay. There we go. So, From Software is doing it good for once. Instead of after their kerfuffle. So, I gotta give some context for this and why it's newsworthy. They had a bit of a kerfuffle with Dark Souls 3 DLC. Namely, that some higher-ups at the company took a DLC that was supposed to be one singular big giant DLC expansion pack and split it into two, with one being fairly sizable and, full of content with, 4 boss encounters and 3 new zones to explore and a whole lot of other stuff in it. And one effectively being 4 micro zones that maybe make up one zone, some rushed boss design because that was initially supposed to be the finale of the big pack, and only one real boss. And they priced this thing at $20 when all the other DLCs for the game are $15. For the games, plural. For every From Software game, they charge $15. But this chopped off what was going to be the conclusion of the Dark Souls 3 DLC, overpriced it, and ruined the experience of the DLC and the story it was going to tell, because we got the part that was supposed to be the end of the story first.
Because logic. Yeah.
Because logic, and the pricing on it was just stupid. They wanted $20 for one level and one boss.
Yep, no.
That is a third the price of the base game, which has 22 bosses and about 12 levels. Nuh-uh.
So yeah, no.
So yes, that has been particularly bad, especially compared to the other DLC that came out for Dark Souls 3, which was supposed to be the beginning of the super big DLC expansion pack. And that had a lot of content in it, as well as Bloodborne, which has the Old Hunters, which is 4 bosses and 3 zones as well for $15. Just, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, the biggest reason I was not going to play Dark Souls Remastered, A, because I don't like Dark Souls 1 really at all, and just to pick a game up for $60 to play compare and contrast when I'm not really going to enjoy the game is not selling me on doing that. I could do it if I have a spurt of insanity, but it's probably not going to happen.
I don't know, you have a lot of spurts of insanity.
This is true.
We have this show from one of them.
Yes.
So, but they will drop if you own the PC version of Dark Souls Original, the Prepare to Die edition on PC, that's the PC version, you can get the remastered version for $20 instead of $60.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
That is.
That's standard HD remake price. I could do a compare and contrast for $20 and probably will. I do like the style of the Dark Souls games. I just think Dark Souls 1 is a load of crap and overhyped.
You are not alone on that score.
Yeah. They're 3D Metroidvania games with hard bosses. That I love. The world design in 1, though, is god-awful.
Yeah.
People praise it to death, though. It's so mind-boggling. Yes, the world's connected. Yes, the map on a piece of paper looks very pretty. The maps are still a piece of garbage.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So, yes. That is a thing that is happening. Okay.
Tag. Well, your turn to pick something.
I'm just switched off, though. I can't see the screen.
Oh, dear.
I've just been sitting here, so I haven't been moving the mouse, so my screen is off.
We are professional.
Boss is trying to eat me.
All right.
The thing is, I didn't really have any news that I found myself this week. Only sort of, lousy one-frame pictures.
Yeah, plenty of those.
Let's see. What have we got on the list here? I don't think there's anything here that I can talk about, though. That's the thing. That's the problem here. On our list of topics, I just don't know anything about these, and I don't really care about them either.
All right.
Yeah.
It's okay. The
professionalism.
Well, this has nothing to do with professionalism. There's no news.
No, there really is.
Nothing. Like, I can't just make something up. I mean, I'm not a games journalist.
All right,
Shots fired.
We'll do the more neutral topic then here.
Okay.
Discord, the program that has usurped Ventrilo as the current VoIP champion, as these come and go, as we know throughout the years,
has corporate Shoggoth.
They did what I think everybody with any business sense would call a dumb. Well, unless you like, I mean, this decision was made by the people that are going to profit from it, but still, if you care about the integrity of your product, this is not the right move to make. They have made a partnership with Xbox.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that on the surface of it looks like an excellent way to break into the big time, and I bet Microsoft slapped their face with a big wad of cash.
Yep, probably. My biggest disappointment here is it's not on Sony, not on PlayStation.
Well, I think that Sony is still convinced that their voice over IP solution is worth a damn.
They're the only ones.
Came to that conclusion, but they did come to that conclusion. It's a thing that happened. There's no undoing it now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. It just seems weird to me to make it an exclusive deal with Xbox, because Discord has come at a time where voice over IP has more market penetration than it did in even the days 4 years ago with Ventrilo.
Mm-hmm.
VoIP was really picking up near the end of Ventrilo's life cycle, right before Discord came along, and Discord really has been owning that. Everybody that's playing a video game, regardless of what console they play it on, is talking on Discord.
You're missing something very big here, and that's that people who don't play games at all use Discord. Like, we're trying to fill a slot in the flat at the moment. We interviewed a bunch of people, and one of them said that she and her workmates use Discord at work to chat. That game is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know. That is a true statement. I was just focusing on games because this is with Microsoft, and specifically for the Xbox.
You were talking about voice over IP in general terms, though, and the sort of market power that Discord potentially has before selling themselves to a corporate Shoggoth.
Yeah. It seems very odd for what has been a very neutral company in all of this, that if you talk to anybody, less and less people are using, or more and more people are using Discord, and less are using the in-game voice chats that companies package with their game, because they're terrible.
They're garbage, yes.
Yeah. The setup where a PC is near enough to you, or a mobile device with a good enough microphone is near enough to you, that it is just a better idea to use a VoIP service like Discord, is the world we live in right now. People will say, oh, we're not on voice chat, we're on Discord if you try to talk in these games.
Mm-hmm.
Just speaking about games. But yes, and Discord does have penetration outside of games as well. Almost every Reddit for anything you can imagine, even non-gaming related, has a Discord.
Yeah.
And I would say that there's a good chance there are more non-gaming related Discords now than there are gaming.
Good odds.
Yeah.
We don't have numbers on that, and they will never give us numbers on that. But it's entirely possible based on the sort of chat.
Yeah. Like
in raw quantity of server numbers, I would say it's almost certainty. Activity is another thing, but we have no numbers.
Well, they've effectively replaced both voice over IP and community forums.
Yes.
Man, forums.
I don't
VTW still has a forum, and you can visit it if you want, but I don't know if anybody else does.
No, I don't think so. But you never know. Someone might.
I kind of miss the old forum format because it was very long form and you had to type out something and actually edit your post. It's very hard to get something with substance to stick for long in Discord.
Yeah, that's the thing with Discord. But I mean, that's unfortunately, and there's a lot of drawbacks to that. Like this is just the culture we live in. It's not one of permanence. People don't value the permanent at all as a sort of a cultural thing. So yeah, it's a bit disappointing in certain senses, but it's a product of the culture, and there's really not anything you can do about it.
But for day-to-day quick communication that is not meant to last very long or do anything thought-provoking, it is very, very good for that. Which is what most people want.
I'm on Discord pretty much all day, every day. Like, the only times it disconnects is if my phone disconnects because I'm too busy to attend.
Yeah. You use Discord on your phone. I am still under the delusion that people use VoIP software exclusively on their PC, even though I know that's not true. I remember one morning you're like, I'm in bed trying to sleep when I saw your green dot, so I just assumed you were at your computer.
I just got to make sure you turn off notifications on my phone, because some days I will, it will just stop and just continuously vibrate, depending on who's doing what on Discord.
Yeah, I'm not sure how my phone decides when to notify me of things and when it doesn't, because there doesn't seem to be any real consistency there.
It seems a bit arbitrary, yeah.
It's become a very important part of my life in a lot of ways. Like, it's the way that I keep in contact with people, because I won't use Facebook. You can't make me.
No.
And the fact that Zuckerberg has basically, more and more people are starting to think that he is either a lizard man or the devil or both at once. Like,
lizard.
That's going to drive people away from that platform eventually, little by little over time. I think that Facebook is liable to die a death of 1,000 cuts.
Especially after the latest security breach, and I'm saying security breach in giant air quotes there.
But yeah,
this is the part where we feel really smug for holding out and not using social media for many years. All three of us.
Discord is my mechanism for keeping in touch with. Like, if they've got a Discord, I add them, and then I can talk to them at any time. I haven't used the functionality, but there's video chat functionality, one-to-one sort of telephone-style chat functionality, and the standard voice over IP chat room that originate more or less with Ventrilo. So this is this is an all-in-one communications solution for me. I would be fine if it just replaced all the other ones, to be honest.
Just about.
Yeah, it is like a wombo combo of Steam and Vent at the same time.
Yeah, I never use Steam Chat anymore, and I used to use Steam Chat for everything. Because Discord has made it totally redundant.
I use it for a few people.
It took me a while to convince people to move on to Discord, but once they did, none of them.
I've got one friend, well, actually, there's a brother who just stubbornly refuses, but he can be a bit thick about things, so yeah. He insists on using TeamSpeak.
Remember when VTW went to TeamSpeak?
Why? Why did they do that?
It was so dumb. No, it was just dumb. Somebody said they liked TeamSpeak better, and this is I don't like criticizing the station we're on, but guys, that was not smart. Don't fracture the community like that. I love you guys, but that was dumb.
Yeah, people didn't follow.
No.
But, it's more or less water under the bridge. But yeah, it's I don't know. I don't want to see Discord becoming entangled in this one. Like, it could be great for Xbox, insofar as anybody uses the Xbox One. But I don't like when a little guy gets entangled with a much bigger guy. The bigger guy always wins. Always. That's why New Zealand gets raked over the coals in trade deals with Australia all the time. Even when both are going in with, honest intentions, New Zealand still gets screwed every time because we're small.
Yeah.
And this is the scenario that Discord are going to end up dealing with. They have become business-wise entangled with a monster. And that monster may accidentally roll over and crush them even if they aren't intending to. And the odds that they aren't intending to, not great.
It is Microsoft.
Yeah,
They consume things. They're like EA in that.
Yeah.
Even if they do come out of this as a company with a net game, Microsoft is still going to make them do things that their
But
customers
they own
aren't
their
going to like.
soul now.
It's I'm not optimistic about this. Discord has been very good at what it does, and yes, that was one of the holdouts. I wanted to be was a thing that was going to stick before I finally jumped over. But yeah, this is worrying. I was quite happy with it when I finally did.
I jumped over an early beta because it was my free company on Final Fantasy used to use Mumble, and it was really gross.
Yeah, Mumble was a
Yeah,
darling
but-
for maybe about 3 months.
Yeah, and it was a troublesome darling too, apparently. Well, that's
Yes.
what I found. But they switched over to Discord, and it won me over pretty much immediately. The sheer amount of stuff you could do on it, simply having chat history was a win for me immediately.
I
Because
forget. Yeah.
lack of chat history on Steam chat drove me insane.
Mm-hmm.
I still forget there's an edit button, and we'll still type a spelling correction with an asterisk.
Yeah.
Even now, I will consistently forget there's an edit button.
Oh boy. All right. I think the last thing we've got to talk about is the upcoming PS Plus releases.
Rayman.
Rayman Legends was great.
Okay.
I know, I'm just
It was
not
alright.
really a fan of the character.
Oh yeah, Rayman himself is bad, boring, dull. But he's a floating lump with detached hands and feet. I mean, how interesting could you make him?
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Does Ubisoft remember that they have Rayman in the stable?
Briefly, they made Rayman. What was it? Rayman Origins and Rayman Legends.
Yeah, there were two 2D games that came out.
How long was that ago? I don't have a sense of time here. You're saying, Legends was the sequel, wasn't it?
Legends was the sequel. It was initially going to be a Wii U exclusive, and then they saw the Wii U numbers. Also, because they announced that they were going to put Uplay on it, and everyone just kind of went, "Nope."
Yeah, that was my big turnoff with the game. Yeah, it's about 4 years old now.
4, 5 years old.
In game terms, that's ancient.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Rayman Legends 2013. My goodness.
Well, yeah, 5 years old. There we go.
Oh, it was late.
Half a
2014.
decade old, and you were talking like it just came out.
Well, yeah. I think that's making me showing age rather than the game. Ugh. But yeah, it's a good game.
This is what happens when you get older. Large stretches of time are much shorter to you.
Yes, it
And
is.
eventually, you're waving your cane at kids on the lawn.
Get off my lawn.
Waiting a whole day for something isn't a big deal after about 25. It's just like, oh, it's just a day.
Yeah.
That's not that long. It's not like high school where 6 hours was torture and felt like an eternity.
What do you know about going to high school?
I went 3 years and half of the senior year.
Oh boy. So yeah, Rayman Legends, really, really good game. Good fun game.
That game did a whole lot of fun, unique, experimental things, like using the music and the backgrounds to influence the level design and how you were supposed to respond to the challenges in the environment.
I've always heard good things about the game.
Yeah, there's a handful of those music levels which I just play them every chance I get because they are ridiculous fun.
It always seems like it was a very good platform series that always got overshadowed by Nintendo Magic.
Yeah, to a degree. And then Rabbids happened.
Why? Why are rabbits?
Yeah, I played the first Rayman game, and it was okay. Looking back on it, I can't recommend it to anybody. It's just an okay platformer for the day and age it was out.
The old school
And then
Rayman games, yeah, bit of a mixed bag.
And then Rayman 2: The Great Escape was a fairly good, challenging 3D platformer. I enjoyed it. I still have good memories, and I've replayed it sometime in the last 7 years. 8 years. 9 years. Good lord, it's been a decade. This is what I mean. Time goes faster as you get older.
Good, I'm not the only one who's suffering.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a fairly good game. And then I quit playing after that, and only came back for Oranges and Legends.
Yeah.
And I did not finish Legends because Uplay.
Yeah, Uplay happens, unfortunately. But aside from Uplay, very, very good game. What else we got?
Was good. Played. Yep.
Yeah.
Hang on.
It's worth noting, actually, a lot of the content in Origins was also moved over to Legends. So if you have Legends, you don't need Origins.
Yeah.
Beyond Two Souls, we're getting.
This is a game that got a lot of press coverage.
Dream games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like they're made by a guy who thinks he's better than other people. That's like the impression I always get.
He's
like I'm an artist. Because I can art.
Like everything from Quantic Dream is like Peter Molyneuxing for narrative instead of for gameplay.
Yeah, it never lives up to the hype. Well, it never lives up to the hype that seems to take place in the minds of the developers. Like I think that for the most part, the audience has long gotten wise to this stick.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that's supposedly the big release for this month, and
they haven't made they haven't made a genuinely good game since Indigo Prophecy.
Yeah, that's debatable.
It was only good for the era and was mostly QuickTime events.
There you go. So yeah, we got David Cage's Robot Rage coming up soon. So whatever that would end up called.
I'm so terrified that not terrified, but because I don't really care about the game, but I'm so sort of waiting with bated breath to see if it turns into an incredibly heavy-handed sort of moralizing tale about like fantasy racism or something.
Well, it's David Cage, so heavy-handedness goes with the business.
Yeah, well, the heavy-handed sort of implies that his hand is empty, but I'm pretty sure it's holding an ice axe.
Oh dear.
Like there is no approach too blunt for him to take. No, nothing that he will set aside as that's a little bit too crass. Perhaps we should use a bit more subtlety here.
No.
He doesn't do that.
He doesn't know the meaning of subtlety.
Remember before the current political climate, when you could look at a story like X-Men that focused on prejudice, and you could say it's an allusion to how the 50s were with a different race, instead of saying the world is totally like that now.
I don't think it really needs to be. Like, the fact is that you can stop at it's about prejudice. It doesn't need to be an allusion to anything specific. Why would it? Every type of prejudice is still prejudice, and they operate in similar ways. You don't actually need to have anything like particularly malicious in there. Like, we've got a character in there who was in a concentration camp. I don't give a toss about the 50s. The concentration camps were worse.
All right.
Yeah.
We've got to hurry up this up because I'm actually getting yelled at.
Right. You're on time, aren't you?
Yeah. So next game, Risen 3: The Titan Lords. It's Gothic except with pirates. I started actually.
This is the one. It's just I've heard one of the Risen games is just hopelessly buggy, like almost unplayably buggy.
That goes hand in hand with Gothic, really. I suppose that development studio. Remember, Gothic 3 was a great game, but good grief getting it to work.
This game doesn't even have a 60% approval on Steam.
Yeah, I think this may have been the really, really buggy one.
I think this is the shovelware game for the month.
All right.
There's always
There
one.
seems to be one.
So that's one of the PS3 games. The other PS3 game is called Eat Them, which I think is the shovelware game.
That's the weird
Well,
indie game.
Yeah, that's the weird indie
games-
game.
Once in a while, the weird indie games are like
Fun.
good fun. So
Yeah. We
Sometimes
have
weird
on
indie game overlaps the bad game, shovelware game.
the Everything King Oddball. I have no idea what this game is. So it's on PS3, PS4, and the Vita. Cross-buy, you gotta love cross-buy. And for
I
the
do love
Vita, a
cross-buy.
game called Firmins.
Furmins.
Which is some sort of
Okay.
Lemmings-like thing.
I've heard the title but don't know anything about the game.
That's about as far as my knowledge of it goes. Is it's a Lemmings-like, which is a genre we haven't seen very much of lately, I suppose. Go back maybe 15 years though, and they were everywhere.
I didn't like
Yeah.
Lemmings.
I liked
I
Lemmings.
was never a fan either. Like for me, it was like Lemmings existed in the same world as Worms, and I didn't understand why you would play Lemmings if you could play Worms instead, because you got to blow stuff up.
Yeah. Oh dear. Those. Yeah. Okay. Entirely
I
different
remember when Worms
games.
tried to be-
Yeah, I know, but they were both games where you modified the terrain,
Mhm.
and you were able to construct things in various ways, and you wanted to make a whole bunch of little creatures go away.
Well, yeah. I suppose that's one way. That's when you put it that way. All right. So
remember
yeah.
when Worms tried to be 3D?
Oh, no, I refuse.
Them games was not good.
Them games were bad. Them games were really bad.
Yes, them games was.
Them games was. So yeah. For this month, one good game. It's a bit of a
Maybe.
disappointing lineup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if like the Quantic Dream games are basically like going to be supplanted entirely by Telltale.
I wish.
They pretty much have. They've released, what, 5 games in the last 20 years?
Quantic Dream? Yeah.
Like the
Less, I
amount
think.
of the amount of like mocap and recording that they must have to do must make them hideously expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, they've had one good game for the date it was released and one okay game with Heavy Rain.
Yeah.
And
was
they're
passable.
constantly driving towards photorealism, which is hideously expensive.
Nobody wants photorealism in games.
Yeah,
Despite what
I don't
people
need
say, they
jiggle
don't.
I don't need jiggle physics on my fat police officer in Heavy Rain. That is not something I need.
I do, however, want it on my sumo wrestler in a fighting game because that's hilarious.
I've completely ascended Julius Caesar to Final Ascension, and his pose on his special Final Ascension art is a sumo pose.
Well, he is fastest saber. So that's it. We should wrap up.
Righto.
All right, let's get firm to work.
Ugh,
Yeah.
sad.
No email topic of the week because we're in the E3 doldrums. Closing comments, go.
I don't want to work. I want to sit home and play Vidya.
I got to go to work tomorrow, and I don't want to work either. I want to sit home and play video.
I don't want to go to work tomorrow either, but it's Sunday, so I don't have to. But I have to do other work despite not having to go to work, so it doesn't matter.
You still want to sit home and play
Also-
Vidya.
I'm
Also,
probably going to be
Minnesota
dead
stuff.
anyway. Yeah. I'm currently at war with the Daystar. I'm going to steal all his heat and move it to the night.
What? No, don't do
No,
that.
I like the night being cold. The only time that I can get any rest. It's too hot during the day to sleep.
No, Daystar. I will never forgive you. For those that are out of the loop, the Daystar decided while I was cutting the grass during the first grass cut of the spring on a 3-acre piece of land over the course of 4 hours that it needed to turn me into a lobster
Yeah.
today. My arms look like they've dipped in red paint cans. It is incredibly painful. I've sprayed, solar paint on my arms 3 times during the show.
Did that stuff actually work? Like,
Uh,
I don't go outside, so I don't get burned. Like, if I went outside, I'd definitely get burned. But
It works for about 30 minutes, and then the prickly feeling starts coming back. I don't mind the heat feeling. I hate the prickly feeling and the exhaustion that you get whenever you get a sunburn. It just
Wait till you
saps
start
your
peeling.
The worst is when you've got your hair cropped really close to your skull, and then you get sunburn on your scalp. You can't put your head on your pillow.
It's snowing.
The worst is when it's on the back of your neck and you can't tilt your head back at all. You have to lay with your face forward in the bed.
Yep. Anyway, let's finish this off.
Well, we'll see y'all next week. Sayonara. Bye bye.